I think I'm all about it here. If that's okay. It doesn't like. It's okay, right?
Perfect.
Okay.
What is going on, everybody? It is Stefan with Vindic EU, and today we are back in the studio. And it's been a minute since we've been in here. We've been very busy with the curriculum and the panels and getting everything set up for the next year. But today we have a very special guest. But before we jump in, Vindic EU isn't welcome to Vindic EU, where healing isn't a destination, it's a declaration. Each week, we speak to real people navigating trauma, burnout, and purpose because behind every business, brand, or hustle is a human being. And tonight, we're diving into the mental health side of being a doctor or veterinarian because none of us are going through this alone, even if it feels like we are. All right. So today, we have Dr. Brianna Horricks, who is managing veterinarian here in Virginia, a profession where compassion meets trauma and where the suicide rate is two to three times higher than any other medical field. She's here to talk about the emotional violence of euthanization, the silent breakdown between the exam room and the fight it took to choose life again. So thank you for being here.
Thanks.
So you were on my panel about a month ago, right?
Yeah.
October.
Yes.
And it was really great to have you on.
Yes.
You've done some conversations, but one of the cool things today, what we're talking about is really the euthanization side and then the veterinarian suicide and how real it is for people like yourself who face this on a day-to-day.
Yes.
When you were on the panel, you talked a lot about some of the ways things go down when euthanization happens, especially with how you get treated, right? So I really wanted to dive into that first, and then we'll jump into the veterinarian suicide on the tail side of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So with that being said, with euthanizations, how does that typically go? Like, who makes a decision on how someone or someone's animal gets euthanized?
Yeah. So for me, it's probably different for every veterinarian, but for me, I need the permission of the owner. My tactic changes every time. Every person, my communication style changes for. So for instance, if I have someone that's apprehensive, I talk to them about what's been going on the past few weeks, the process, things that I can do to help give them more closure and help them come to a decision. Lately, I've been trying to for some of our owners that have really decrepit animals where they're trying to quantify a quality of life, it's very hard. I'll give them 3 criteria to take home with them. And if their pet does any of those 3 in a day, that signifies that pet's having a bad day. And they get an X on the calendar. I think it allows them to have a visual quality of life because I think it helps them process the decision that they have to make. I remind them that the decision is a brave one, especially if your pet is really old and decrepit and you're not really sure whether you're making the right choice or not. And I'm like, you're making the better choice for the pet. I can give you my advice, but at the end of the day, it has to be your decision because this is your pet. It has to be how you feel. I'm a perfect example of that. I live by that philosophy usually where I'm like, look, I need to look at the reality of how this pet is feeling. And are we doing this for me? Or I ask my owners, are you doing this for you or are you doing this for your pet? And I was supposed to put my dog down this last Sunday.
Sorry to hear that.
And well, I chickened out. I didn't do it. I didn't follow my own advice to some of my owners. I do plan on doing it in a week. I just kind of had this weird feeling like I wasn't mentally ready. And I'm the one that has to do the injecting. So I have to make sure that I'm in a great headspace, that I'm comfortable making that decision. Kind of have that philosophy with all of my owners too. I did have one, I think on the podcast that we did with the group of women, you had asked me if I had ever had to put down an animal when I felt like it wasn't the right choice for me. I literally just had that this past week. where I went in to euthanize a pet and I didn't feel right about it. It was a scenario where I was kind of really, it weighed heavily on me. And so I found a way to rescue the pet. And that was the first time I'd ever had to do that, where the owner was like, yes, I'd like to do this. If we can't, like, this is the scenario I'm looking at. And it was a success. I worked with a bunch of charities. It was a lot of extra work and a lot of my emotions this past week, because there's just the fight with trying to fix it when you weren't sure that you could, and you'd have to make the difficult decision. So like, there's just so many emotions that are involved in how you have to do that. You have to be there for the owner, to be like a hand or a shoulder they can cry on, but you also need to be stable and in your wits enough that you can get the job done cohesively and not be an emotional basket case yourself. I mean, there's some that are easier than others, or vice versa. This past week, I had a couple that were really hard on me because I was very close with the owners. I think my relationship with the owners makes it harder for me. I am an empath, I think, and seeing them go through the grief, I take that on in a way where I am so empathetic to how they're feeling that I will break down. And this week I broke down a lot. It was a really bad week for me.
But it's good. And I congratulate you for giving yourself the permission to have those moments, especially in a place of work, because you have to show your vulnerability to your staff and to the people that are looking up to you. A lot of times you're the expert because, you're the one that's the managing veterinarian.
Yeah.
And a lot of people trust you. And I bet you that, I obviously don't know what it's like, but I could definitely see how a personal relationship and having to put someone's animal down definitely can toe the line. But I also want to congratulate you too for giving yourself permission to do it when you felt was right with your animal, because I think about that all the time with hunting and like, how would I, because, it's not like I can have the talk with her, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to know that, listen, if I'm going to do this responsibly, ethically, so I can be okay with this, I'm not good today. And I think that takes a lot of strength, you know what I mean? Because now you're breaking your own rule, but you know what? But it's your rule and you're the one that made it. So if you break it, oh, well, it's giving you the peace. And that's really cool, because I think a lot of people, and you could probably back this up, especially people they don't want to cry in a veterinarian's office, with everybody looking at them. It's awkward. And then people are looking at you like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Are you mentally stable? Like, what's going on?
Oh, I'm pretty sure my staff didn't think I was stable last week. They just knew I was having a hard week. And so I had to just be like, this week is not my week. So my staff was really great. But yeah, they saw the emotions wearing on me last week for sure.
Now, when it comes to euthanizations, how many do you think as an average veterinarian does a year?
Oh gosh.
Oh wow.
No,
okay.
I just
so
did,
it's up there.
It's up there. I did 6 today. 6.
Wow.
Just today. And there isn't a day I usually go without doing one, to be honest. Perfectly honest, at least 1, maybe 2.
Are these walk-in or are these scheduled?
A little both. Like for instance, today I had 2 scheduled. The rest were kind of work-ins that weren't doing well. And then the decision was made then. So I think it's a combination of that. It just depends. There's weeks that are harder than others. The holidays are actually really rough for us because we have owners that don't want to go through a holiday weekend with their pet suffering. So we get a lot of euthanasias, unfortunately, around the holiday or right before the holiday. We have cancer patients that they're like, are they going to make it to Christmas? If they're not, like, they don't want their pet to die on Christmas. It's just, I don't know, just a thing. So starting now, I can see that this is happening. Our numbers go up. And that's just what happens this time of year.
Now, you talked about a checklist. You said, there's 3 things you talk about: quality of life, or things that if the dog experiences within 24 hours to monitor, and if they had a good day or a bad day. Does that help equal out in a dog lover's mind how many days they feel like they have with their animal and what day they should put down the animal? Like, how does that
so
work?
To elaborate on that, my checklist changes for every pet. So depending on what their symptoms are or what they're going through or what the owner's going through, I make them pick the 3 criteria that would signify if their pet experiences that in a 24-hour period, they're not doing well that day. And then I make them, if we have the time, obviously, I make them do that over a period of a month. So it gives them a better, really big picture look of like how their pet really is doing, or, you know, like how badly they are doing in that month. And so it changes for everyone, I think, but that has been a new policy for me, and it's helped them get into the right headspace, because it's hard for an owner who has an old 15-year-old Yorkie that's like blind, deaf, and like cognitively not even on this planet still.
Kind of reminds me of my mom's dog, Caramo. It was a poodle and very much like that at the end of life.
Yeah. Like they're not even here. That's my dog right now, whom I couldn't somehow put down. How could I this is a dog that's needed to be put down for a few months, and just something I just couldn't. So I know what it's like to be an owner in that exact scenario, where when you go to make the decision, you're like, I can't do it. I know I need to do it. So it's hard for owners when they have a dog that's just kind of like cognitively not there, but there's no organ dysfunction or there's no bleeding mass inside the abdomen. There's actually harder for the owners to make the decision because they're just old. And it's like, when do I make that decision? Am I doing it too early because my pet is peeing and pooping in a diaper and ruining my house, or I'm not sleeping because my pet's pacing the whole house, howling? So I think owners have a lot of guilt too when they have like really old dogs that don't do anything besides just act cognitively not normal.
Do you think the guilt comes from the knowing that they're going to put the animal down and the animal doesn't know that? Or do you think the guilt comes from they're thinking about their needs and their wants, and now they got this dog that's old and taking up time and, messing with the house?
I think it's the why behind it. I think people need to have a good reason for their own mental health. So like, I think an owner would have a hard time feeling like, is this the right time for my pet, or am I doing this just for me? And so I walk them through a lot of those emotions. Like, no, this isn't just you getting tired of cleaning up poop all over your house. Like your pet is blind, deaf, not with it, has 0 teeth, like sleeps 22 hours of 24, this is an okay decision for you to make. I think people need the validation behind it, because we live in a society where we feel judged all the time, and we're judging ourselves. So I think that is really the root of everything. And I'm their therapist.
Well, I think also too is you're the reason, because maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure there's been times where you're like, yeah, you don't need to do this. Yeah. Like, I would not do this right now. I would give them more weeks or give them more months or whatever. So in a way too, you're a really good judge of character for the animal. Has there ever been a time where somebody brought it and it was because of a totally selfish reason, and you're like, wow, this dude is a asshole for putting this dog down, like because it barked, you know what I mean, or something crazy like that?
Well, I experienced something similar last week, where there was a reason that the owner was going to have to do it, but it wasn't a reason that I felt like the dog's life had to end over it, that we could find an environment that fit that pet better. And so I did make that decision, because I have to also worry about my own emotions and how I feel. But I let my owners, I've gotten better at this. I used to not be really good about this. I kind of let them make the decision, but I read off of them. So if I have an owner that doesn't seem like they're ready, but their pet needs to be euthanized, I'll give them plan B options. I'll be like, look, let's try this. If this doesn't work in a week or two, call me and we'll plan it out together. So I give them tasks. I give them things to do, or I give them options if I feel like we're not going to get anywhere and I'm going to offend this owner if I bring up euthanasia. I try to read their facial expressions a lot, and how their body energy gives me that too, where I'll decide what direction I need to, like what thing I need to say next to get them to make the right decision for them. And a lot of times it really is, what's the right decision for this person? Because I can feel how they're feeling. So it's not always, there's plenty of times where I feel like this is what needs to happen, but I don't do it because I'm still having to comply with, this is an owner that's about to make a really tough decision. So I have to really comply to their emotions a little bit. So I base it off of animal and owner kind of equally.
If you were brought a dog by somebody who obviously is just trying to get rid of the dog and they're like, yeah, we need to put it down. Are you allowed by law to be like, yeah, I can't do that. It's a perfectly healthy dog. I will not do that.
So I've had colleagues talk to me about those stories.
Yeah.
I, weirdly enough, haven't had to experience that a lot until recently. But I talked to the owners and I'm like, look, is this an opportunity where you would be okay with us finding a rescue? Can you give me a week?
Okay.
And they're totally receptive because they want to do that. They don't want to do it for no reason.
An animal, yeah.
But I've had owners, I even had a friend reach out to me that went to high school with me. She lives out of state. And she was like, this is a scenario of aggression where this dog is attacking my child. And I've tried everything. I've tried training. I've put it on anxiety meds and all these meds. And no one around me, my veterinarian, won't do it. And that's their prerogative. So we do have the right to say no if we're not comfortable with it. Most of the time though, like nowadays we have so many really great tools at our disposal and so many great rescue groups where I know 3 rescues that I have their personal numbers.
Nice.
So if I really needed to, and I felt like I needed the resource of like, hey, can I maybe see if this owner's receptive to me, like talking to them about this? Can I talk to them about, these are your options? And I've never really had to do that before. And recently I did, and it went successfully.
Now, you said some stories from your colleagues. Like, are there ever, like, give me like a story, like a nightmare story that you've heard?
Where do I start? Well, like for instance, people that, I mean, in general, I think this is an in general problem. People that can't afford pets get them. They don't realize how expensive they are. And rather than treating their pet appropriately, they put them down, or they make up an excuse as to why they need to put them down. A lot of the, younger dogs are more aggression, and some of them are very, very like validated. Some of them are even court ordered. I've had people.
Fair enough.
I've had colleagues say like, well, this judge said that this dog was a dangerous dog and it kept biting everyone. Like, I've even had a couple horror stories where like I've had dogs mauling their pet sitter, where the pet sitter had to go to the ICU, and then that owner made the decision to euthanize their pet because, they had
it's a liability at that point.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different things. Colleagues have said that we've had people dump their dogs off on our like door.
That's illegal, right? In the state of Virginia?
Yeah.
Like that's an actual crime.
Yeah. Now we have cameras, but this was back in the day when we didn't have cameras. And a lot of times people will hit a cat and then they'll just take it to the nearest vet and like dump it on the side door. And you're like, oh.
It's like that homie that just got shot and they just like drop them off with bullet holes and they speed away in the car.
We have some really great, like good Samaritans though. Like this one lady found a dog that had clearly been hit or was dead right in front of her house. And she was like, can I bring the pet to you? Can we microchip or check for a microchip to see if I can find the owner? Like, there's some really great people out there, but there's also some
really horrible people.
Yes.
Yeah. And I
see that all the time, every day. I see that.
Are there like times where you'll be like a CPS where like somebody will bring in a dog and the dog's in a really bad position and you'll like call the police?
Well,
or animal control.
I have never had that go well. I had a case years ago when I had noticed that this owner was deliberately starving the dog. It was dying in front of me, collapsed, like body condition score of 2 out of 9, like emaciated. So I called animal control and they went out there, but it was too late. Essentially, like his environment was deemed like legal enough, but then a couple weeks later the pet died. And so that kind of stuff kind of wanes on me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I won't I mean, without hesitation, I'll report someone if I need to. Thankfully, lately, knock on a lot of wood around here.
We got wood down there. We got wood on the ceiling.
I haven't
some
had
2x4s behind the wall.
I haven't had to do that. Look, if we're in a scenario now where an owner can't afford their pet, they will give it to a rescue. Where before, I think our resources have changed. 10 years ago, we don't have the resources. What do they do with their pet that they can't afford? You know,
True.
it starves, or, you know, they shoot it. You know, I've had that a few times. People will say, well, I'm just going to shoot it. And I'm just like, I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that.
So there's this guy named Bubba Sawyer on YouTube, and I
Okay.
very loosely follow him. He follows my account because I was just
Okay.
checking out subscribers one day. He's very obsessed with chainsaws, and he killed his own dog because his neighbor complained about it barking. And he lives out in the middle of nowhere. And
Yeah.
it made me really mad because I would never do that. But it's like, your neighbor complained about your dog, so you shot your dog. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I shot my dog, and then I had to work early in the morning, so I had to go to sleep, and then I had to bury it when I got home. And he lives out like he's like a bumpkin,
Yeah.
you know, out there. But it was.
I mean, I've had a few people say that.
It's just like, I get it, but isn't there in death, especially with like animals, a level of compassion
Yeah.
that is created by the space? And that goes in my next thing is how you prepare for that. You know, I believe you would make it special for the animal in some type of way, whether it's just a blanket or just, you know, rubbing it and just keeping it real calm and stuff. There's not a gunshot. And what if the animal doesn't die? Now it's running around, bleeding out, suffering. You know what I mean? So I would much rather somebody take it to Brianna and let her take care of it than, you know, putting a shotgun to the back of its head.
Euthanasia.
Yeah.
Because you're literally sedating them. You're using a drug that they use for sedating people for procedures. You're just using more of it. So essentially you're just sedating them initially. So yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have too many resources now to make it more compassionate. We're not living, you know, in the 1800s. Yeah.
So how do you prepare? Like, how does, like, somebody comes in, how does it work?
So it changes literally every time I do it. My conversations change. So for instance, I'll use an example from today, actually.
Okay.
These owners came in, they had like a really old cat, like beyond probably over 20. And I'm giving them ideas of what I think might be going on. Weight loss, it's not eating, it's vomiting. I'm like, it's hyperthyroid, it's kidneys, it's cancer. I need to do diagnostics to figure that out. So I could tell with their body language that like they financially, like that wasn't going to be something, you know, that we could do. And so I'm talking to them about that. I'm like, well, we don't have to necessarily do that. I gave them a bunch of different like A, B, C, D. And I was like, you know, if you make the decision to euthanize your pet today, like it's not the bad decision. Your pet is old. Your pet has something bad going on with it. I just can't tell you exactly what it is. And if you're okay with not knowing exactly what's going on, then this decision is one that you can make. But I have a lot of owners that have to have the closure of knowing exactly why their pet is being euthanized. So my conversation changes depending on what that is. Then it depends on whether they've been there and they've done that before. So if I have a first-time owner, I'll explain how the euthanasia works, what we do to prepare them, and then what we would do with body care, and just explain the process from beginning to end. When I have the majority of these owners that have been there, they're like, yeah, I just put my dog down a month ago. I'm like, I know, I'm really sorry I'm seeing you so soon, you know? So it just changes. Your conversation is constantly evolving. That's why our job is both amazing and terrible at the same time. I love my job. I used to not like my job. There were times where I wasn't able to process the emotions and the strain and just the workload alone, but it's because we're ever evolving. I'm learning every day. I have to change my tactics up every day. There's always that challenging element that comes in and teaches me something new every week, which is really fun.
That's cool.
No, I meant that sarcastic.
Oh, well,
Fun as in like a new nightmare of how I need to change the way we do something.
Oh,
it's just hard. It's just you're dealing with so many different types of personalities out there. And I have some amazing owners that I absolutely love. And then I have some people that really challenge me, patience. And I think what we're lacking with that is empathy for each other. They don't have empathy for what I'm doing behind the scenes. And it's hard for me to relate to why they're being rude to me for no reason, but there's always a reason for that. So back to the euthanasia though. So yeah, it changes a lot. And so with this one, they finally were like, they were kind of waffling. They were like, I don't know. And then I was like, I'm going to give you some privacy to talk about it together. They talked about, they're like, we're ready. And I'm like, okay, now we're going to talk about body care. Then we talk about body care. Once they make that decision, we fill out a quick little piece of paper that gives me permission to do it. And then we talk about body care and what everyone's different. You know, some people like to bury at home. Other people really like cremation. I mean, just everyone has a different personality. You also then have to figure out how to end everything at the end. Some people, this is the hardest part actually, is when to give them the space and when not to. I have some owners that I'm like, they need all the time to kind of just be there. And then other owners are like, it happens and they want to get out. And so I have to try to judge and figure out like if they're the dippers or if they're the ones that want to just like stay there. There's some people that are just, they need to go afterwards. And so I'll be like, do you want a few minutes or do you want to leave? And they're like, I want to leave. And I'm like, I'll grab your dog. You just go. And then there's other people that need to be in there, like big families and stuff will stay in there for hours. I let it be them. They make the decision to leave. So I have like a little doorbell that they'll press when they're ready to leave. And that tells us that we go in.
That's awesome.
So just lots of different things that we kind of, the process that goes into that. It's very complex.
You know, have you ever read On Death and Dying?
No.
Okay. So it's a book that I'm listening to the audiobook, but it's an older book and it's called On Death and Dying, What the Dying Have to Teach Doctors, Clergy, and Their Own Family. And what it is it talks about the psychology and the cycle of death when it comes to the individual and how when things like this happen, especially like let's say somebody's in a coma or somebody can't make decisions for themselves, it's how the decision gets made. But it also talks about the separation, how doctors can't have that conversation because they don't know how to. So they bring in psychologists. That actually hurts the process, you know, and the level of being there for somebody. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. It doesn't always have to mean like you have to have the answer and all the right words to say. It could just be the pat on the back or I'm so sorry. Or if there's anything you need, let me know, you know, and there's a level of true healing because a lot of times in the situation like that, the person is looked at dead way before the physical body has died. Right. And with that lost connection, it makes the family and the doctors the ones to decide. And it leaves out the person, you know, and I think it's very important to be able to have the strength like you do, to be able to give the space, to be able to have the conversation, to be able to give the options, because a lot of people, you know, their minds are spinning, you know, their world's upside down. This is very traumatic for them. Maybe, you know, because I've never had an adult dog like Honey before, ever. Like,
oh boy, I'm in for it.
Oh yeah. Well, I know who I'll be going to, but I was going to get her taxidermied so I could have her forever. And then
Please don't do that.
I was like, what if they don't do it right and then it doesn't look like her? So
I've had a real conversation about cloning before with my mom's best friend.
Oh yeah, Tom Brady just did it.
I don't think I can do that. I have a cat that will not be cloned because there's a whole science behind it. Cloning, no. But she actually asked me if I would do it, and I contemplated it for a split second, but no. But back to what you were saying though, I think that is what makes us different, though, than human medicine, and very unique and precious, because we deal with so many different fields within like a matter of even 2 minutes, where the human world is very regimented. Like, I need someone with this degree to come talk to you. When I have the power to do those conversations and have all of that, I'm my own ophthalmologist, my cardiologist. Now we do have specialists now, which make that amazing. Or if I feel like I'm not getting anywhere and I need a second opinion myself, then I refer. But majority of the time, I myself have the power to help these owners with all of that. Where in human medicine, you everything's segregated.
Mm-hmm.
So
and you also don't have patients except for the customers that complain, because the dogs are usually cute and friendly and loving.
Usually. Except when they try to bite you in the face.
Ooh, yeah. And then you want to go put it down. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
All right. So is there any specific moment that has ever like haunted you, or any specific situation with euthanization where that was not cool? Like, for whatever it is, it just was,
I have euthanasias that haunt me, but not because of bad things, but because of trauma I feel from the owners, actually. I did have one. I got to be careful about this one. I did have one that I had empathy for my technician, who was treated horrendously during a euthanasia. And it was one that haunts me because of how she felt after it. So essentially what happened is we had a few people coming in. They were euthanizing. The dog was very ill, and my technician went to place a catheter in the room, which we often do. We're very transparent and we're amazing at what we do. My technician has been working there for almost 30 years.
Wow.
And she went in there to place a catheter, but this dog was very, very sick. And so blood pressure plays a huge role in that. Any human nurse or doctor can empathize when your veins are not, good.
Yeah.
And so she went in and she went to place it, and the dog moved and was kind of, just howling, acting. It wasn't that it was painful, it was just not cooperating. And the whole process was just chaos. But the one person ended up going up to her, kind of yelling at her, and why don't you just, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say, cussed her out and said some vulgar things. I don't remember the exact thing, but it was vulgar, and was like, I would be able to place it at this point, and just like humiliating her in that moment when she's just trying to help the pet. And there's a lot that goes into it. Like, you let your pet suffer and it's practically dying before you bring it in. And that kind of, all those things are factors where they're not realizing that themselves. They're just like, get it in already. Like, put it in his penis is something, but he used a bad word. And I heard that, and I came in, and everyone's looking really angry and kind of like really being rough on my technician. And I was filled with anger. And that was the first time I ever felt like, wow, I really don't want to do this for these people, because they're not even appreciating what we're trying to do. Like, yeah, she didn't get it in the first try. Big deal. Like, the dog moved, we aren't in human medicine where we can be like, hey, hold your arm still.
Yeah, right.
Like, give us some grace. But that's what's lacking in our industry, is grace. Actually, that's what's lacking with the human world.
You think?
Yeah.
Compassion.
Yes.
A little bit of love.
And all we
humility.
did was just say we're sorry, and we just catered to them. But then the whole thing ended up being like, they just kept coming at her and like complaining at the end. And the whole process was just really hard and chaotic. And that one just haunts me a little bit, because you're not going to be able to please everyone. And that was the first time, I think that was about 5, maybe it was more like 3 years ago. It's when I learned the valuable lesson that there's no pleasing some people.
Yeah.
And you can't please everyone. And there's going to be people that hate you for no reason. I've learned that in my personal life. I've learned that in the veterinary field a lot in my personal life. Like, people are just going to hate you because they feel compelled to hate you.
Or maybe they just hate themselves.
And maybe.
you know, usually people in my experience who are fulfilled, you know, have things that really, you know, they're passionate about, families,
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
seem to be, you know, relatively happy people.
Yeah.
And they always say that if somebody that is doing the same or more than you will never put you down because they know what it's like. And talk a little bit about that anger. You know, I think that is a great thing to talk about. And that's what I also wanted to talk about. And here is where does that come from? Is it because they're mad that they had to put the animal down? Is it because of
Yeah, I mean, I
sadness
think
and
it's a combination of it. They take a lot of their own stuff out on us, where they will be angry that they're having to do this, or angry that the process isn't going perfectly, so
well,
they
whose
take it out
fault
on
is
us.
that? It's nobody's fault. The dog's old.
But they don't realize that. I mean, you know, people feel a lot of emotions, and they're not good at, you know, actually expressing them appropriately. I feel like in my case, in the opposite side of that, is that I can feel anger for how we're being treated, but I have to, what this job has taught me is patience and how to hold your composure even when you really want to just tell someone to fuck off. You know, that kind of thing. But we have to be professional, and I've learned the art of that. And in the end of the day, I also remind myself that the reason they're treating me badly is because they are going through something, not only this scenario right here that's happening in this moment with you, but they're also going through having to put their pet down, or something outside of you, and it's in their personal life. So I've had to just tell myself that a lot, because we're often the scapegoat a lot. We get a lot of that taken out on us as veterinarians, which contributes to our mental health issue.
Yeah, because it's like a mind fuck, because they brought the dog to you to put it down. You're granting their wish by helping them put their animal down, and now they're getting mad at you for putting the animal down. And it's like, you know, like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. You know what? Here's a shotgun. Just go on the back, you know, break.
Sometimes that is how I feel a lot every day, where like there's no winning, you know, sadly.
So with that being said, has there ever been a time where you like kick somebody out and you're like, yo?
Yes. Sadly. I don't like doing that a lot.
Nobody would.
I'm the manager, I think, for a reason. I have found a way to try to talk people off that ledge of just insanity, where majority of the time, 9 out of 10, I can walk someone back from, like, you know, something they're yelling at us, this, that. Anytime I've had to kind of kick someone out is when they are verbally abusing and emotionally abusing our staff to the extent of like, no, the fact that you even went there means that you just need to be gone. And I've had particularly some older men do that to some of my younger women staff, where they're belittling them, cussing them out over something minor. It doesn't even have to be about money. It could be like, because we're running 15 minutes behind in a hospital setting, and they're getting, my front staff is usually the forefront of that, where they receive the most abuse. I've really made it my mission to try to advocate for the staff. So if I feel like if someone's being abused and I feel like it's unjust, I explain that to them. And if they are kind, I have even had people walk back from it and said, you know what, you're right. I'm going to go apologize. Or I've been like, you're not allowed to disrespect my staff. This is why we're 15 minutes late. But you cannot talk to them like that ever again, or you're not coming here again. Period. And then they'll be like, you know what, you're right. Because they know that what we're trying to do, and I remind them, this is my favorite sentence, I'm here to help you and your pet. I'm doing you a service to try to help you. We're not trying to be difficult by being 15 minutes late. But, you know, emergencies happen. So I don't know, I over communicate. But if I feel like it's going nowhere and I still have someone being really combative, then, but I think it's literally, I can count on one hand the amount of people that we've had to be like, no, we're not going to see you again. This is really amazing in my 11-year career that I've only had to tell 5 people that. So it's not often, I can usually rectify the situation. And that's why that's what I like to think that I'm good at, is being able to relate to people and calm them down and get them, kind of get the job done.
No, I definitely agree with that. Now, are there ever times where somebody will change their mind like right before it happens, and you're like, we already got the catheter in and all this stuff? And
yeah, I've had that happen a couple of times. But again, like I tell them, look, it has to be your decision. If you're not ready, we'll keep the catheter in, give you 24 hours to think about it, that kind of thing. Or like, hey, we'll give it some fluids and give it 24 hours for you to kind of decide. Let's see how the pet does overnight, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time they'll come back and be like, okay. I do have the rare case, though. This is why I have to make it their decision every time. Like, this is another example that's happened to me in the past couple of weeks, where this pet had a biliary mucocele, basically an obstruction of the gallbladder. And the dog was really old. They couldn't really afford surgery. And I was like, your pet's yellow and the liver's failing. Like, I think we need to euthanize your pet. I'm really sorry. Like, there's nothing else for me to do besides surgery. And they were like, well, we'll just take her home for a night. And then like she started doing better because I had her on all these different meds. They weren't initially working. And then they called me a week later. They're like, she's still around. I'm like, I think we need to see her. And then I examined her, ultrasounded her, like things had miraculously improved and her liver values were better. And I was like, wow, okay. This is why I make this their decision. Like their pet is still alive and like things happen. I deal with miracles every day, which is really fun because like things that you think are not going to turn around. Like I'll talk to my staff a lot. Like I'll take a dog to surgery and I'll be like, I think this dog's going to die. And they're like, what? And every time I say that, the dog lives. And so they're like, every time you say that, like, we're just going to think that you're lying at this point, because every time I'm like, I don't think this pet's gonna make it off this table. And they're like, well, it does every time. Funny. So like there's things that you don't think are going to turn around that turn around. And that's the beauty of our field. And then things that I think are going to do well tank. So just nature of life,
Do you think that's why you gave your dog an extra week? It's just maybe it might turn itself around.
No. She's been gone. The reason I use the analogy of like she's not on this planet anymore. She doesn't know who she is.
What's her name?
Suki.
Suki.
Yeah. So she needs to go. And she's been very decrepit and deteriorating for months. But there was something about her making it to her 15th birthday. Like doesn't even make sense. Like if you actually say that out loud, but on Saturday, she turned 15. And this last Saturday.
Well, happy birthday, Suki.
Yeah. So I was like, I really want her to make it to her 15th birthday. But so then when I went to do it the next day, I chickened out. But my mom's made me promise to do it next Sunday. And I said, yeah. So
is the whole family coming?
No. My family doesn't deal with euthanasia very well.
Oh, okay.
We tend to think of our animals as people. So my mom's opted to never be present because when she is present, it just is not good for her own mental health. So it's usually me. I'll sometimes drag my poor husband, who literally sobs his way through it, but he does it because like he knows that he kind of just needs to be there for me. That's mine. Awesome.
Great husband. That's how I feel about Lacey.
Yeah. So like he'll go with me. I mean, on the weekends, if I have an owner that calls me and I'm doing emergency, like on my own time, he goes with me. It's always a train wreck, like something's really dying. And he's just like crying with the owners. And he's just such a nice, loving man that loves animals dearly, but that's awesome. Feels for those owners.
He's like, I'll cry with you.
Yeah, basically he does. And they find it endearing. And I'm like,
it's real, and that's the thing about emotion. And even with the platform is that is a part of healing.
Yeah.
That picture I showed you with the blood running down my face. So, that's not blood. These are all the things that happened before, the screams, the yelling, the turmoil, and when you are able to share a moment like that, I believe that truly helps people get through things like that because it's in a way it's therapy.
Yeah. Well, he's going to kill me to say this, but this is like kind of his analogy of it, actually. He and I are a good team. We're just very different. He is this strong-willed person that would tell someone off very easily, where I'm not because of my job in a way where I've learned to keep things in. And so he talks about how he's just much more rough around the edges, we'll say. So we do go to church, and every Sunday he cries. And I asked him one day, I'm like, why do you cry? And he's like, it's the devil leaving me. And it's like all the evil and anger and all the stuff that he feels like in his life is leaving him in that moment. And that's how he expels that negative energy that he feels like is piling up in his week, of all the things that he holds back doing or wants to do. And he's like, he makes a joke of it, but like, it's a real thing. It's like stress, anxiety, pain, depression, leaving his body. So like, he has a rough week. He goes, cries it out at church, and then he's regrouped for the next week. So that's like his way of dealing with it. But he is definitely more emotional with that than me. I tend to try to be emotional. So when I cry, it's a big deal because I don't cry often. It's very odd.
Except for just this week.
This week has been really bad for me. A lot of it's been, though, I usually am a crier because I'm angry. So it's just anger or frustration. So more of it's frustration of crying. I don't cry all the time. I cry when I'm sad in instances of euthanizing my own pet or feeling empathy for an owner. But a lot of my crying sometimes is more frustration of like what is happening to me in that moment. And this week was actually a lot of other crying too, because of things that owners were putting me through too. So like it was more frustrating, but I was dealing with all of that at the same time, euthanizing my own pet, frustration of owner. So it was all coming out in the emotion of crying because I had no other way of getting it out. I couldn't scream at people, and sometimes too, I have to be very composed at work because I have to hold up our entire staff. I sometimes feel like my staff, I guess, reads the room with me, like feeds off of my emotions. So if I'm not having a good day, the entire staff's not having a good day. So I have to go in there and have my game face on. I have to go in there and be positive no matter what. I don't care what's going on outside of my life, like personal life, anything. When I enter that building, I am their inspiration. I am their like hype man, we'll say.
Leader.
Yeah. So I go in there like hype man every day. Like it could be a complete S show. And I'll be like, guys, we're doing great. We're going to get through the day.
The building's on fire.
Literally. And my poor staff goes through it almost daily. And I'm like, hey, we're doing great. Let's keep it going. And so I feel a lot of that a lot. And so it does feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders sometimes. I'll go home and I'll be like physically exhausted. Even though I've like been walking around, I feel the emotional exhaustion from having to be so positive, but it helps, like if I stay positive, then the world around me and the staff around me that works their butts off feels that energy. And they're like, oh, okay, if she's okay, we're okay.
And that's a real thing, it's like, if she can do it, we can do it. And that's part of the camaraderie that's built. And that's why it's so important to have that influence where you're feeling them and they're feeling you, you know what I mean? And being able to be like, no, we can't get through this. It sucks, but it is what it is. I think that's really what makes the difference, because if not, it's a shit show, like you said. And now you got pissed off customers and, that dog.
Boy, do I have a really good team though. Like this year, like this team has been the best we've ever had. And they just are so good at what they do. And they're all amazing. There's like no drama and it's beautiful. And this team is just like, they love to come to work and do their job and save animals. It's great. So it's helped me be a little bit more positive with that because they're just so great.
Now, how old are your kids?
So I have an 8-year-old boy, 5-year-old girl, and a 2-year-old girl.
And you all have all your hair and you look so happy. Amazing. I have one child. I don't know if I would want more. Although Lacey's been talking about wanting another kid. And I'm like, well, I guess maybe this time I'd be a better dad. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a good dad. But
you are a good dad. I've seen you in like action. You're a good dad.
Yeah, he has clean clothes, right, Logan? You have clean clothes? I'm just kidding. But how do you deal with that coming home? You know, like and bringing all that emotion, because you talked about on the panel, you'll do a euthanization, and then right next is a puppy visit, and you're with these people who are so excited about their dog, and you're just like
put someone's lifelong pet down.
Yeah.
Compartmentalization. I used to not be good about that. So I'd come home and I would be just drained, where I'd be sitting there and I wasn't interacting. But I have a saint of a husband who literally carries the household. And I think he has this innate appreciation of like what I go through on a daily basis, because I talk to him about it. And he says, I don't know how you do that. So he's very in tune with what I go through. So he'll carry the household.
Yep.
He's the one that does the laundry and the cooking. I do none of it. I come home.
Right, Lacey? That's you, girl.
I come home and I don't get to see them a lot. And so when I do, I want to make sure that I'm on. So I come home and my job in that moment is to play with them or to ask my kids what their day has been like. So I just try to be a mom the minute I step through that door. And it's a lot of work, but some of that is the compartmentalization that I've learned is I've just left my euthanasia. I'm driving home from work and I'm about to enter the puppy room, and that's being a mom. So that's how I have to do it.
Well, and it's great that you can, because it takes somebody like that has courage and a heart to be able to do some of the things you do, because it's not easy. Definitely when you have, it's one thing when you have to put the animal down, from hearing what you're talking about. It's definitely another thing when you're battling the client who brought the animal to you to put it down. So I would get very mad too. I'd probably start yelling and be like, dude, listen, do you want the dog down or not? Because you know what?
And you have to be careful nowadays. Like every little thing that comes out of your mouth, though, can and will be used against you.
Or on YouTube.
So I like to make sure that anything that I say, I would feel comfortable with it being repeated, or that person. I'm very careful with what I say, because it has long-lasting effects, our words. So I've learned.
So with that, and we're about to get into our next session, because see, it's already been 53 minutes. Look at that.
Wow. That's crazy.
How long does it feel like we've been talking?
20 minutes.
See, I told you. Most people who do 2-3 hours with me say it feels about like 45 minutes.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I'm good at what I do. I'm just kidding. The emotional weight. When it comes to suicidal thinking and veterinarian suicide or doctor suicide, how does that weight push against you?
Oh, it's like waves. I think it just depends. There's years that I could feel like I need to belong in a psych ward, and then there's other years that are better. I think it's all a balancing act. With the suicide rate with veterinarians, I like the fact that now we're talking about it, but for a while we weren't talking about it, and now we are, where we as veterinarians are teaming up and going, like there's a lot of people in our industry that are committing suicide. The reason behind that is what's a struggle for me. It's not because we euthanize pets, which is sad. It's a part of it, but it has everything to do with how we feel and how owners make us feel at the end of the day. And how everything that we do, we feel like our entire livelihood is being held by someone else. Okay.
Interesting.
So we have years and years of hard work and dedication where we go to school and we literally put ourselves through actual hell. Like veterinarian school, it's hell. There's nothing great about vet school. I would call my mom, like, I want to quit. Like quitting was more on my mind than actually succeeding. So they put you through all this hell to get you through vet school. It's grueling. It's faster paced. Like my colleague, just went through it, and like hearing how she had to endure it. I'm like, oh my God, like I have PTSD. over what it's like to go through vet school. So you finally get through vet school and you have to like change your whole identity. We don't get paid enough to deal with people's BS sometimes. We don't.
It's like what's this extra $350 charge? Okay, so you were an asshole for about 5 minutes, so we billed you for that.
Yeah. We do veterinary medicine because we really love it. It's not, like I said in that other session, it's not a career for me. It's a livelihood. It's who I am.
Yeah.
And so you have to pull your entire identity from high school. Like from the age of 12 on, I had to literally go on the path of, you want to be a vet? This is what you have to do. You have to miss out on all of these other things so that you can be a veterinarian. You don't get to go out and party all the time. You have to do this. You're studying for a test. So like you change your whole life to become a veterinarian. So your whole identity is wrapped up in being a veterinarian. And then you go years and years of building up this career that you feel like can crumble within a second just because someone doesn't like you or your interaction with them wasn't great, or they want to sue you, or they want to turn you into the board, or they're yelling at you because you can't fix their pet with $200. And so we have that where we feel like we're beaten down by people much more easily. And then we also have the financial strain where we feel like we have to help these owners with their own finances. So we have the weight of the world on our shoulders trying to figure out how to save this pet for them because they have zero money.
Yeah.
So you have your own financial and emotional strain from going through vet school that costs tons of money. You have how owners treat you, different experiences that dictate that, euthanasia. Having to compartmentalize our workload alone is insane. I mean, I literally live in 5-minute increments where I'll have 6 people in a room and I'll be like, that one's dying. That one's dying. Which one do I go to first? Like, and my staff is like, this owner's waiting 15 minutes or they're upset. Well, I more often than not, like, okay, so I work in 5 days. I used to work 7 days a week, but I work 5 days a week. And 4 out of 5 of those, I don't eat. I don't get a lunch because I'm working. So we're overworked, underpaid, emotionally put through absolute turmoil, financially strained. You know, our relationships outside of work are strained. And then the thing that tips you right over the edge is having this owner go, I'm going to sue you and turn you into the board because you didn't do this perfectly. And I had a situation like this that gave me so much empathy for this other veterinarian. So I did a surgery on a dog where I found something. The reason the dog was sick was I found a mistake from another veterinarian.
Oh, wow.
Where something was left behind
like
in the dog's. Yes.
Damn.
And in that moment, I felt really weird. I felt intense empathy for that veterinarian because I was like, their whole world is going to crumble. This owner is going to go after them. And so I tried to allow this scenario to play out as gracefully as possible so that they could learn from it, but not be completely crucified because mistakes happen. We're human still. And I think that we forget that. We think we're superhuman and we're not. And so, you know, it was dealt with grace and dignity. The whole process by the owners, they were amazing. They allowed me to handle it the way I felt comfortable handling it because I didn't want to be the source of destroying this person's career.
Yeah.
Which nowadays,
it wasn't intentional.
Yes. This person was trying to do a good thing by spaying the dog and saving the dog. So at the end of the day, we live in a world where we want to crucify people, like canceled. You made a mistake.
Oh, I know too well. In my own platform, Madman Plant, I have been attacked very many times to the point where I've been removed from events and opportunities that I was supposed to speak at. And so believe me, the cancer culture is real.
But it's because everyone's like behind a keyboard. And they're not facing.
Yes.
I find that that's a tactic I use with my clients when they're being difficult. You don't have to be combative with someone and cuss them out to be powerful and strong. So when you're facing them with their own bad behavior and you're making them face you, like, why are you treating me like this? What is the reason behind that? because the minute that you have to face me, you can be mean to my staff, but the minute you have to face me and I have to call you out on it, but in a way that like is classy. I like to be classy. They look and self-reflect more easily, but it's so easy to judge someone or crucify them behind your desk where they can't see you, they can't confront you. And that's why I feel like cancel culture is so popular now, is people live on their phones too much. They live on judging everyone else.
Well, yeah. And I think also too, I don't think a lot of people are fulfilled or found their calling. And I will tell you that personally, and I can see it with you too, if you're passionate and you're doing what you love, you don't have time to hate because you're so busy doing what it is that you love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I do hear you about relationships. They do get strained, but honestly, sometimes that's a blessing, because to be Dr. Horricks, you had to do certain things, as a business owner, there is no guaranteed paycheck. It's like going out each week and hunting. If we get clients, we get clients. If not, there's nothing coming in. You know what I mean? So when you have people that are dangling or trying to dangle your profession in front of you, or like in my case, like let's say leave a bad Google review, or that could happen to you too.
Oh, it happens.
You know what I mean? It's like,
it's like literally my worst nightmare coming in.
Yeah, it's your own profession just being weaponized against you because they're not happy. And that's not fair. You know what I mean? And that's what I don't get about society, is how are we so emotionally immature when it takes very little effort to understand that to get a point across or to really get your way is not the yelling and screaming, the knocking things over and being an asshole. You know what I mean? It's the constructive strategizing and working with people, understanding where everybody's at, you know? And in today's world, you are 100% right. I don't like you. I mean, I watch police body cams all the time, and that's all I watch is murder interrogation videos and police body cams. So, yeah. So like when I go to bed, I'm listening to somebody confess about how they murdered somebody, and I'm like, oh, this is so great. I'm gonna pass out.
Wow.
But anyways, in it, it's the same thing. It's like, oh man, now I lost my thought. This happened on another podcast, and the lady's like, that's you. And I'm like, damn, I lost my thought.
Well, it's just how people so empathy. Easily are.
And they're like, oh, I'm going to take your job. I'm going to sue the fuck out of you.
But what about this side of it? This is why people are so complex, is one bad review can define you and define your whole industry. But on the other side of that, we have to, in today's society, really advertise ourselves so that we can be more relevant, because there's more, right? So on the other side of that, I have a lot of owners that find us because of our great Google reviews. But there's always that one, you're always more affected by the negative ones. But that's what's so frustrating about today's society, is you're so reliant on how people find us. Now I ask new clients, like, how did you find us? It's always Google or reviews. So we, as business owners in the world, or businesses, or just any facility, are so reliant on reviews. So because the first thing you do when you want to go somewhere new or search for it, what do you look for? The reviews.
And how many?
Yes.
By stars.
Yes. Thankfully we have really a lot. I haven't even really looked it up.
No, you guys are great.
I think it was 850.
Very nice.
850 positive, I think, last time I checked, but I can't remember. So we're really but we've been really well established, but that's our goal, is to just keep the positivity, and we're getting, good reviews every day. But I think it's because owners are seeing that we actually enjoy what we do, and we like
and passionate.
Yeah. And my staff
it's real to you guys. It's not just a job.
No,
like you said, it's your identity. If
they wanted to actually get paid, they'd do anything but what they do, but they love what they do.
Yeah.
So that's the real truth of it. So.
The whole starving artist works for veterinarians and creatives.
It really does. Yes.
Well, and that's the thing too, is the difference between payout and purpose.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of times too, especially when you're in fields like with the mental health and stuff like that, there's not a whole lot of money associated with that type of work. You know what I mean? It's serving, it's because you have a calling. It's because, you feel like there's a greater purpose. And I think that's honestly part of the trade-off is maybe the finances may not always be there 100%, but you're beating the guy that goes to work every day who hates his job, who wishes he went to veterinarian school because he loves dogs.
Yeah.
And he goes in that vet office. He wishes he could be behind that desk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's always a give and take.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I try to recognize is like at the end of the day, I'm still doing what I love.
Yeah.
And that's good enough. As long as the world's not falling apart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that actually is what gets me through the hard weeks where someone could be suicidal. I read anytime there's a reported suicide in veterinary medicine, I'm always reading their backstory. And it's always these well-established people. And it's always something emotional that happens with an unfortunate event of like a client and everything. But reading those stories and just keeping myself aware of what all is going on in our field is, in general, and then checking myself, making those checks like, well, you went to school for this. This is what you want to do. Don't let that person that cussed you out over you being 15 minutes late ruin your whole day. I used to let it ruin my whole day. And that was my problem. I was caring too much about what people were saying about me, what they were thinking. And I had to live and let go a little bit. And it took me a lot of years to do that in my personal life, in my career, just with everything. And so when I started living for me and compartmentalizing and then deciding, no, like I'm just going to be a mom. When I'm not at the veterinary clinic, I'm a mom. But we are there a lot. Like my staff member. So my point of that is that whatever's going on inside that facility affects you more adversely because we're there more than we're home.
Yeah.
So that I think is a contributor to veterinarians' suicide is because we're spending so many hours in that field that's intense and we're not having enough downtime. So this year I started taking more vacation.
Good.
Because I had to. Otherwise, I wasn't getting that quality time with my kids.
Setting an emotional boundary.
Exactly. And I talked about that, how I changed our hours because I was seeing myself getting burnt out. I've seen my staff get burnt out. And I had to change so that we can manage that, how we can remind ourselves, no, we love what we do. This is why we love what we do. We work really hard for this amount of time so that we can have weekends off and we can spend it with our family. Now, I kind of break that rule sometimes where I will essentially like be there for some of my pet owners that I really like feel close with or have given them my phone number and I'll go in on a day off, but I like it. So it doesn't feel like work, especially when they're appreciative.
Yeah. Cause you have control.
Yes.
You allow them.
Yes.
If you want.
Yes. So, I mean, I think all of that plays into how we somehow keep going as veterinarians though, is being able to have that passion and remind ourselves of the positive behind our passion and not that it's tearing us down. I had to change the way I looked at that. I went down this deep, dark hole of everything felt like I didn't even want to go to work some days. I wanted to give up. I just was tired of everything about my career. And then I kind of just found little wins, like ways to start enjoying it again. Yeah. Like I told you, I started having actual conversations with my owners that were outside of your pet. And it's so fun. Like I'm getting to know my owners better. I think they see that side of it where I'm like, I just want to have a good day and talk to people that I like. And so if this is an owner that I'm vibing with, I'll talk to them about their personal life and how they're doing. And they like that. And when I was doing that and cultivating true, real relationships with my clients, I was seeing that my mental health was going up and I couldn't figure out why and somehow that was doing. But I think it was helpful because I opened up a little bit to my clients and they were seeing the real side of me. And so then I have clients now that like every week I'm getting gifts from clients.
That's cool.
And treats and just we have some amazing, gracious owners. But I think because I stepped up and started working harder as a veterinarian and not just like punching the clock.
Yeah,
Go in and being like,
exactly.
what's wrong with this dog? Okay, give it some meds and leave. I started really enjoying the job again, but it was work. I had to like form a relationship with my career again, one that I liked. It's like,
Yes.
but one that you're willing to work for, like a relationship. You know, it's hard work sometimes, but you're willing to do it because you love it. And so that I had to just completely change my entire mindset about everything.
Yeah, I exactly went through that. I've been burned out so many times. I've been
Yeah.
Good Luck Stuff Production since 2013.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
so we've been in business, and then I own Madman Plant, and then now Vindic EU.
Yeah.
So these are like my main platforms, and there were times where I would sit in this very basement, and me and Lacey have been in this house times where we have screamed out, you know, I hate my life and I hate our situation. And, you know, you get burned out. And, you know, even with Good Luck Stuff, there are times where I've kind of like faded away a little bit, you know, with my attention with it and stuff. And you really do have to kind of pull yourself back and be like, no, this is you. This is what you have. You know, what else would you do right now? You know, you spent your whole life doing this, you know, and really building, you put it in a great way, building that relationship with your profession again and having it on your terms. So this way you do feel like you have an outlet and you're not always escaping. You know what I mean? And that's huge for that. So I could definitely see how your mental health and being able to be real with your clients, and then also kind of let your guard down. Maybe you don't have to be as, you know, dot the I's and cross the T's, you know, you can be a little bit more relaxed, and that helps them because when they have to make that hard decision, they have a relationship with somebody, not just an interaction, you know, and that's huge.
Yeah. And, you know, I have to give a shout out to Dr. Witter, who originally owned Fairy Farm, and he was my mentor, and I learned that from him because when I was a student, I'd go into these rooms with him and he'd kind of be shooting the shit with some of these owners, and I'd be like, should I still be here? Like, we're not talking about the dog anymore, we're talking about him hunting, you know. But it's so great because I reminded myself, and it took me a while to understand that aspect of it, but I think he really loved his job, and he just loved what he did so much that it wasn't work. It seemed effortless for him. And so he was actually the inspiration behind my whole new mindset change. Is I'd be like, you know, he used to like go in there and just like be real and talk to them about their lives and like start actually forming friendships with these clients, not being afraid to even like see them outside of work, you know, where I'll let some owners be Facebook friends with me now. Cause I'm like, you know, like it's fine. So I took kind of a beat off of what he used to do. And I used to see him do like, and that was when I was like, yeah, he used to just be friends with these clients. And it's so much better. Like I have so many great clients that I've actually formed really good relationships with. They're long lasting. So, and they always bring me gifts, especially wine. I think they must know that I like wine.
I like wine
Every
too.
week I'm getting wine
Red
from
wine.
someone. I'm like, is this them telling me something? Like, what are they telling me?
It's like either they know I'm an alcoholic or they think I'm an alcoholic.
I'm like,
how much do you think I can drink?
I think they just know that we have a really hard career, you know? And they'll ask me, they're like, what do you like? And I'm like, I do like wine.
No, I do too. I actually kind of forced myself to like wine. I was not a fan of it. And I was like, I want to be like more sophisticated. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and I was like, you know, I was like, all right. So I forced myself to start drinking it. And now I really do like it.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things just like with IPAs. When I first had that over Budweiser, I was like, oh my God, this is so dry. And now I'm like, Budweiser, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like mature taste buds come into play.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to say for a second, you were talking about the relationships, and there's this video a guy named Pastor Rick who does a commencement speech. Type in Pastor Rick commencement speech.
Got it.
And he's the guy that gave me the idea to do the hospice work with honey.
Oh,
and he said, you know, I've sat in on the bedsides of thousands of people who soon would take their last breath. And I was like, damn, I want to do that. And he's like, you know, the dying don't play around.
Yeah.
And he said, it's never about achievement. You know, what we do here and what we strive to have a good life, to have a nice car, to get degrees, to do all these things. He said, that's great. But when it comes down to those final moments, all that matters is relationships.
Yeah.
And how you make people feel. And if you can make somebody feel loved, that is one of the biggest and most powerful powers that you can have on this planet.
Wow. That's powerful itself.
Exactly. And I was like, well, you know what? I wanted to get a change of perspective. So that's why I got me and Honey signed up to the therapy work because, you know, a lot of people don't have a relationship with death like they do with life. And you said it earlier that sometimes you think you'll live forever. And that's actually because the subconscious can't actually picture yourself dying. Yeah. So with that being said, it does give us a sense that there will always be tomorrow, and that in a form of sense that we will and can be here forever. Yeah. But the reality is that it's not. And the reality is at the end of the day, it wasn't about the services. It was about your relationship and your staff's relationship with those people in those moments that created something special. Yeah. And I think that's also something that we neglect as far as recognizing is, you know, we are building energy and moments with one another. Yeah. And sometimes depending on how people feel about the situation, they may think, oh, well, it's just transactional, but it doesn't always have to be like that. It can be like, you know, your predecessor who taught you everything, Dr. Witter. And it's like, wow, you can be human and be a doctor. Yeah. Have you seen Patch Adams?
No.
Oh my God. Robin Williams.
Rock or at Fairy Farm.
Okay. Well, you know, they have shorts now. So, you know, 10, 15 seconds to explain the movie. Okay. But, and they have Dead Poet Society. That's a good one. Okay. But in Patch Adams, he was lecturing them about how doctors and work with people, it should be humanized, and there should be a real feeling and emotion attached to it. Yeah. Not this simple, you know, just getting people through, like you said earlier.
Like an assembly line.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's so important that you recognize that, because when I think of the moment and day that I would have to make the decision to put Honey down, I want somebody like you. Yeah. You know, that's not going to be like, okay, well, hey guys, you've been here for an hour and we really need the room back. You know, you're going to be the person that allows them to stay as long as they need. You know what I mean?
Oh, and trust me, that is not without sacrifice. And that's the thing that I think owners don't understand, is when they're using that room for 4 hours, I'm down a room. So I'm 30 minutes behind. And I make it happen.
That's why, asshole.
You know what I mean? Like, but that's what we sacrifice. But we do it for the greater good. We do what we need to do to make every person that comes through there feel like they need to feel like they're the only one that's being seen. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job. Yeah. And it's hard sometimes. I could get in a rush sometimes and be like, I don't even know how I'm gonna do this. But like my goal is I'll be rushing and running around like a chicken with my head cut off outside of the room. But when I walk in that room, that owner's the only one there. They just don't know. They don't know what's going on outside. And then I come back out and I enter the chaos, and then I go back into another room.
It's like, it's like, where does she keep going? All these different rooms. It's like, I'll be right back. And it's like, God damn it, that was 15 minutes ago. So, okay. So now I want to kind of get into the darker side. So for you, when suicide was a thought, define it as an answer. What problem would suicide solve for you at the time when you were going through your dark periods and everything like that? Like, talk about the thought of suicide. Like, how does that work for you?
I think suicide plays a part when we think. I think anyone could think of it in a dark moment.
Oh, absolutely.
And when I have felt that is when I felt like I'm failing.
Mm.
And I think failure is very hard for a veterinarian. So we all think of suicide because of different reasons. And I think what would make a veterinarian feel that is the simple word failure. Whether you're failing an owner or you're failing yourself, where you're not just achieving all the things you thought you were going to achieve. And I think that is something I felt for so many years in my personal life as a vet. And I know I have a lot of clients that have always thought I was a good vet. And I've always been a good vet. And I feel that now because I feel like I work hard at trying to be a good vet to people. But for a lot of years, I didn't feel like that. I felt like I wasn't gonna make a lasting impression in someone's life, or I was failing at that, because we think very grandiose as veterinarians. We're very type A, we're go-getter. So our whole goal in life is to make this huge difference in someone's life. If you feel like you're failing at that, what are you doing? What's your purpose? And so I felt like that a lot. My breaking point, though, was a lot of outside that was making me feel empty, lost, failing at my career in that moment. I wasn't able to focus on achieving in my career because I was just feeling my own personal torture outside of work. And I was letting it affect how I was feeling about my career. And then I had to remind myself that I was going through a really hard time for a lot of years. And then I had to remind myself that it had nothing to do with my career and that my career needs to take family, God, career. That was all three things that I needed to actually reorganize in my life. And family, I put first finally, and I wasn't, so I was feeling like I was feeling as a mother. I was never home. I was putting everything on my husband. Feeling like I'm not the stereotypical mother is a really big failure in mine that I'm still battling with. I get home really late and I'm overworked, or I'm working and someone calls me on the weekends when my kids are supposed to be at a play date and I have to make my husband do it. So I still feel like that because when I come home, I'm not the Susie homemaker. I'm not making everyone dinner. I'm coming home to dinner. I'm the career woman. My husband has his career, but he is much more part-time, and he had to sacrifice his career because mine was taking over.
Yeah.
And so we as partners have to work really well together. And he's found his own new enjoyment because he was hating his job because he was being taken advantage of, and he wasn't thriving. His whole life and identity when I met him was his career. And before he met me, he told everyone, I just want a career. I'm not interested in a wife and kids. And then he met me and his entire priorities changed. So I'm watching him go through all of the sacrifice he went through to help me and everything, but also having the guilt that I'm not the typical mom. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. So the guilt of not being the one that always tucks my kids in or makes them their meals. I try to still be the mother figure to them. So when they get hurt, I'm always there. I'm their empath. So if they get injured, they come to me, but I'm not the one that's most present in their lives. So my kids have been closer to my husband than me. My kids now are close with me and have their own relationship with me. But when they were babies, you know how when you're around a lot of babies, they always want to go to their mom. I did breastfeed all of my kids for a year, but they had the mom bond with my husband. So I wasn't who they wanted to go to, and they would pick him, or I'd go, do you want mommy to hold you? And they'd be like, no, I want daddy. And so that was really hard for me. And that was a few years ago when I was also going through everything else in my life that was horrible. And I was feeling like, wow, I'm feeling at motherhood too. Like my kids don't even like me. But now I'm cultivating my relationships with each and every one of my kids where I can feel like a presence in their life, and so I had to find that too. And I had to find squeeze in the time to be a mom the way I wanted to be. Stop feeling like I'm guilty because I'm not the right kind of mother, that I'm not the one that actually does my own laundry. I'm the career woman that finds quality time with her kids to still feel like I'm a good mom. That was really hard. I felt like for years I was failing at being a mom. So it's really hard to balance that. I had to be okay with letting go of the stereotype and just being the mom that I felt like I needed to be emotionally for my kids. I think my kids would rather me have a good conversation with them that's long lasting than, make them dinner.
Yeah, especially if you don't talk to them.
Yeah.
You just make them dinner.
Yeah.
Now, do you think it's because in society it's been ingrained so much that the woman, takes care of the house and does all this, and the guy goes out, and you have something
I
to
guess
do
in my
with some,
1950s
like mindset, you're like,
mindset,
what the fuck am I doing?
But now we as women can do more career things, but we
Are you reincarnated? Did you come back as a 1950s woman?
No, but I think it's still this guilt that we feel like we all are career women now. It's much more accepted for women to be career women, but that doesn't mean you don't feel as an individual like you're failing at something else because you're not the right kind of mom that you've always thought you needed to be.
But if the responsibility and the job of the parent is to provide safety, shelter, and a good education and moral compass, if you will, and you're providing that, how would you think that you're not a good mom when you're still showing up? You're not like going out to the bars drinking with 11 different guys, haven't heard from me in 2 weeks. Nobody knows where you are.
Well, exactly. Well, I think it's just the need to be the absolute best and having all of these criteria that you have to meet yourself and having way too many expectations for yourself. But I think that it also means having a good partner where you can share the load. Like, I'll go away, on a conference and leave him with all the kids. And then when I get back, I'm trying to make that up and be like, okay, I'm going to be present. Like tonight I called him, forgot to tell him I was doing this.
Well, thank you.
And I was like, by the way, I'm doing a podcast and I will be home. And he's like, what's new? Like as a joke. Cause he was like, every time I go, hey, I'm going to try to be home by 5:30 tonight. I'll call him like at 5:00 and be like, an emergency hit by car just walked in. I'm not going to be home. I'm home at like 7. But he just rolls with it. And he's so gracious. And I think that on the weekends, it's nice because we get to do things as a family. Like our big thing is the new thing for parents, I think now, are to divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't work for me. Like we have to be this unit. So we have a lot of friends that divide and conquer. Like they'll get like a day to themselves and they'll go out. But like Matt and I don't get to see each other enough. So I'm like, we do things together as a family.
Yes.
And we're always together because that's when I get to spend time and quality time with him too. But then we also get to talk it out.
Well, you guys are best friends.
Yeah, basically.
Who else are you going to hang out on your free time?
I didn't really like him when I first met him.
I didn't really like Lacey either. We were in a one-night stand.
Oh.
And we actually, that's how Logan was born. And we went through a full year with lawyers and courts and battles, fighting for custody, drop off and pick up points. Oh yeah.
Wow. What a story.
Oh yeah. Maybe I'll let you interview me.
Yeah. Right.
We'll throw some,
but he won me over because he was funny and he
that's the way
became my best friend. Yeah.
Oh, so, he said, he played a very risky thing. He could have ended up in the friend zone. So it's a risky thing that he did, but it worked out for him. So that's great.
It wasn't without its scandal. He was my brother's best friend.
So
I had my own scandal.
Wow. There you go. Well, it worked out.
Yeah.
See, nobody's mad when you have 3 kids.
Yes.
Your career.
And my brother loves that he is his brother-in-law. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about when you thought about suicide, like how would you do it? Like, what was going to be your method? See, when I was younger, at about 13, 14, I almost injected myself with gasoline. And the only reason I had access to needles was because I was on growth hormones when I was younger, because I was really small.
Wow.
So I'd filled up the needle and I put it against my leg. And then I decided last second, maybe I won't do this. And I stole my parents' credit card and I went to Florida. And I spent a couple of days in Universal Studios. But it's a long story. But there's been lots of times in my own life, even as an
Uh-huh.
adult,
Uh-huh.
you're like, you're right. It would be so much easier,
Yes.
so frustrated, so angry. It'd be so much easier if I just wasn't here and I have to deal with this bullshit
Oh, I've
anymore.
thought about that.
And then you're like, well, fuck, how would I kill myself? Like, am I going to do
Well,
it?
you're getting to the
clean?
next super important part as to why veterinarians are the highest of anyone. And it's because we have so many we have the access to the drugs that make it very easy.
Oh, I actually didn't think about that.
And that is a huge factor, is we're handling these
Interesting.
drugs that make it super easy. You literally go to sleep. And so that's part of the issue in our field, is that we have so much access to things that are so easily lethal to both us and animals and other people. So that is part of the problem. So yes, it's very easy for a veterinarian.
Not in a fucked up way, but I can see how lucrative it makes it. It's like, well, I don't have to shoot myself. I don't have to cut my wrist. I don't have to be throwing up while I took a whole bunch of pills.
Every single veterinarian that kills themselves is just injecting themselves.
That's
it. And we deal with veins every day. We're very good at finding a vein, and so that's what's so sad about our whole thing, is that it's right in front of your face. It's so easy. That's the problem. And so I think that's why we're a step above. I mean, the same with doctors and I think dentists are the second behind us.
Interesting.
And I think it's just because we have access to things that make it easy. And so the minute that you have all of these compounding emotional feelings all the time, that probably 12 different thoughts that make it something that you think about, then not only that, but it's easy for you. That's why. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
So that's what you would have done
if
you were going to do it.
I think what makes it easier for me not to do it is having a good partner and kids. It would make it so much easier if I didn't have things in my life that I truly hold dear to me, which is husband and kids and my parents. They would be mad if I didn't mention them, but yes, my parents too, who made the whole dream happen in the first place. So they had to literally trudge through the trenches with me as I was going through vet school. So that was like part of it. I mean, there'd be times where I was having a mental breakdown and my mom would have to fly across the Atlantic to make sure I didn't commit suicide. And it's crazy because that's what she would have to do. Like, if I was having a really hard time and I called her and I didn't sound right, she's getting her butt on the airplane.
That's a great mom, especially when they can hear it in their daughter's voice and be like, you know what? I'm going to be with you for a couple of days.
Yeah. And literally I had to have babysitters sometimes. And so that's even in vet school. So like my uncle had to come babysit me at one point when I was going through so it wasn't even vet school, but I was going through a really emotional breakdown because of something going on in my life when I was going through vet school before I met my husband. Mm-hmm. And he came and literally babysat me. He was there to make sure I was okay. I went to school. I came back. He was there with my cat. And like, that was my life, at times. So that's the other thing, is people that feel like they don't have the support group. I have like an army of people.
That's great.
That sometimes care too much about me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure that when I leave here, I'm going to have to call my mom and be like, hi, I'm home. Mm-hmm. Like I'm 15 again. But like, that's just her worrying, and then Matt, secondly, like he'll make jokes and be like, can you at least tell me when you're leaving? So I know like you're not somewhere dead on the side of the road. But my mom first, like usually she's that mom in the meme of like, if she hasn't heard from you, she's sending like the troop with the helicopters. They make fun of those moms, but that's the mom she is.
That's awesome. Parents are everything, especially great parents. And that's why, especially with raising kids, it's amazing how many police videos and stuff I see with just like these kids in these situations. And I'm just like, how? Just like, how?
Yeah.
When you were younger, it's the same thing. You thought about taking just veterinarian medicine? Or
I mean, I think an actual student in the years that I was there did that to herself, actually. And she euthanized herself literally a week before she graduated because of it. So like we would still have access to it. At that point, like I didn't really think of it in the sense that I thought about it later in life, but it was just like, I felt like my world was ending. I was very immature. Everything seemed like a big deal. And so everything felt like it was a big deal enough to be having those distracting thoughts pop into your mind of like, I just want to end it. I just don't want to live life anymore. You know, like you'd think those things, but it was in a very immature way. What got scary is when it was becoming more real for me, when I actually was feeling like, yeah, I really don't feel like I can go on emotionally anymore because of all these things that I feel like 2 years of my life were like just piling on, where I was like, I'm like, I don't want to have to wake up tomorrow. Like, how am I even going to deal with this? Like the thought of having to just keep going. And so, I mean, I think that I'm actually happy that I went through all of the hell that I've gone through with my career, personal life, and everything, because what it did is change my entire life for good. I think, though, it's the battle of trying to get to that point that is pure hell.
Yeah.
But when you make it through that, I live such a nice, peaceful, wonderful life now emotionally, where I can have a bad week, but it doesn't define me, because like I'm enjoying my career. I'm enjoying my home life.
Yes.
I have cultivated my friendships in a way where I'm keeping only people in my life that continue to uplift me and respect me. I don't have people in my life that are jealous. I think a jealousy is a huge part of evil. I think it should be one of the most evil things on this planet, because that's what drives murder. That's what drives everything bad that happens to you. Is because someone's jealous of something that you have, or anything. And I have been a product of that a lot. And I had to just be okay with just completely changing my perspective. But I'm so much happier for it now that I made it through all of the bad, because it changes your perspective. If you don't go through trials in life, or enough of them, I feel like not only does it make your life a little boring, but it doesn't make you appreciate the good.
Yeah.
And so I started reappreciating, like, oh, well, at least I'm not getting sued. Oh, at least I'm not going through this, or at least I'm not, feeling like I want to die. So today wasn't that bad, and so like going through a really intense trial in your life, that like when I tell some people the stories of what I've been through, they're like, they look at me like, how did you go through that? And I'll be like, yeah, with difficulty. With some of my friends, where I'll tell some of my personal details to, they're like, wow.
Which ones could you share about, like, with us, about how that added to it? Because I talked to a lot of suicide survivors, and with that being said, there's a lot of buildup. So for instance, it won't be maybe just one thing. It'll be a collection of things, and it won't be week after week. It could be a month here, and then 2 years later on this date you've had enough.
Yeah.
How does that build for you?
I think a collection of thing after thing after thing for years is what my buildup was. And I can't even tell you that I was close to like actually ending it, but like you're in a dark place where that's all you think about is just wanting to be left alone and have it end. Like you just feel like every day is work. And that's what I was doing. And everything that I was going through was affecting how I was treating my clients, even, where I just was like, this is work. This is chore, where you don't want to do that. You want to have a career that you don't find is work. And so when I was somehow managing still being a vet and like doing it well enough while going through all the inner emotional turmoil, I was realizing, oh, wow, I really can still keep going, even though I don't think I can. And so all that buildup, and when it finally started ending for me and I started making changes to make that get better for me, I was finding, oh, wow, like nothing is ever going to be that bad for me. And it was a lesson for me. It was a lesson for my kids. Like I can really grow from this.
Yeah.
And I think in the past year in particular, when everything finally ended for me, various things like in our own lives, everyone has something that they're going through in their personal life, or even within their own career. That's a difficult time. When it finally ended for me, the relief allowed me to springboard off of that and put boundaries in place that allows that never to happen to me again, where I'm putting my protection armor on. I learned a lot. I think women in their 30s learn so much. I know so much now, even from age 35 to 37. I'm now 37 years old. I have grown as a person and strength and like built up my life in a way where I'm a fortress now. No one can break it down. Even my own thoughts can't break it down.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and that's the thing, we are forged in darkness, when it comes to tough situations, a lot of people do want to quit. And you see that with how people act, how people carry themselves, how they let their house go, how they treat, their relationships, and it's a constant battle of going forward. But I also recognize it too as a learned language. This is not something that's designed for everybody. That's why there's some people that are in management and there's some people that are just workers.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And that's the way it is. And I think you have to get to a point where you're just like, either I'm too intelligent to live the current way I'm living, or I'm too unsatisfied to live the current way I'm living, and something has to change because I cannot deal with this anymore.
Yeah. The other thing that popped into my mind while you were even saying that, that's another aspect of why all of this is so complicated and we're all still trying to learn how to manage just life in general, is I started really putting things into perspective. You hear someone else's horror story. Well, I was one of my friends would be like, wow, hearing your story, like, I don't have it that bad.
Let's hear it. Go.
Well, some of the stuff I can't talk about personally, but with hearing where I was getting at with that is I was hearing my clients talk about what was going on in their lives. And I'd be like, wow, I really should not complain, where I'm now at that point where I'm having these personal conversations with my clients in a way that I'm hearing their really sad stories of, like, this woman came in, she just lost her husband last week. And I was like, how are you here? And like, talking to her about that and like the battle of cancer or this or that, but that's again how my own mental health is becoming better, is I'm cultivating my relationships. It's this circle of happiness that you create for yourself by having these personal conversations with your clients, making your life better, getting to know them, but also hearing their stories and realizing, like, okay, like, I need to put my own life into perspective and appreciate my blessings and stop thinking about everything bad in my life. And that was a whole nother thing. And getting a little tough love too from family. Like, my mom, although a great mom, she's really good at tough love. But it's important to not, I think that that's important as a mom too. And I feel like there's aspects of that I give my kids too, is like knowing when to give them a little tough love, to reiterate to them, like, this is not that bad. Like, and so having all of these different little things in your life happen. And so that's the thing, putting life into perspective.
Yeah. I do that with Logan all the time, especially like earlier today. He didn't know the difference between like what chapters were. So he like read 2 pages and he's like, I'm done. And we were like, no way you're done. And we were like, you have to read it here. And then he got
Do you homeschool him?
Yeah. So me and
that is so amazing.
Yeah. Me and Lacey have been his teachers ever since he was little. Yeah.
My husband is such a good teacher. He taught college students.
Oh, fantastic.
And so he's been thinking about homeschooling our kids for a while.
If you have a busy schedule, you never have to worry about calling in or dealing with the school system. And with some of the things that are going on in Stafford schools that I hear about, it's kind of dangerous nowadays. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
guns and knives and,
no, seriously.
Like suicides, even when I was younger, when I was in middle school, we had a guy named Tim commit suicide. I actually went to the funeral with several other students. And, that's the thing too, is you don't realize who's on the brink of it. I'm sure there's many times where you are breaking inside and people just looked at you like you were completely fine, and they don't see it.
Yeah, and you look like you have it all together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do you think most of your trauma comes from in your life? Is it all just veterinarians? You said there's other things, there's like abuse.
There's the career. Mine was personal relationships and how it adversely affected me. And so that, and things that were integrating into my career too, and navigating how to handle difficult relationships and putting boundaries in place where you needed to. I had to learn a lot of really hard lessons about that, and about trust, and about actually trusting or having a group of people that you actually trust with your innermost demons, and not having it be used against you. And so finding friendships that I surround myself with such a great friend group that like isn't ever going to think of me in a negative way or use anything that could possibly be taken negatively against me.
Yes.
And just finding people that just, if you're positive, like your relationships stay positive. And I had to start cutting people in general out of my life that were tearing me down or not there for the right reasons, that would only ever want to live. I mean, I don't know if other women go through this, but I have in the past gone through cases where I have been friends with people that they literally live and breathe hatred towards me and I had no idea. Or they wanted literally my complete downfall. Like, let's just wait. Let's cancel this. I mean, it's like the new Taylor Swift song, Canceled. I felt like for 2 years I was literally living it. Like, no matter what, whether you're innocent or not, people are like, let's kill her. And, you know, and half the time you are innocent and you don't even know what to do. Like, and so like having people that live to see you fail. I went through a lot of that and I think everyone goes through some version of that in their life. Like you're actually friends with someone that actually wants to see everything about you fail. And then you don't realize it. And then you're like 6 years down the road, like, oh, wow, I'm no longer friends with that person. And why didn't I see it 6 years ago?
Oh, believe me, I know what you're talking about. I've had in this cannabis community alone, so many people come and go who are used to sit directly at this table and then blasted me online later. So I agree with that. And I think here's the thing too. Remember this. People want you to be successful, just not more successful than they are. You know, and that's the truth, you know. And that's why I tell Logan, I'm like, dude, listen, you're young. People like kids. They want kids to be successful. You're gonna get to an age where nobody gives a fuck. You know, and then you're gonna get to an age where they want you to fail. You know, so enjoy it while you're young, while people think you're a cool person. Because if not, you're gonna be fighting for that a good majority of your time.
That's perfectly right. And that all kind of comes down to like the word jealousy. If someone's jealous of you, like I'm more afraid of a person that's jealous of me than anything else in my life, because of jealousy is such a powerful move. Like if you're jealous of someone or you have someone jealous of you, like watch out. They're ready to like take you down.
Me and Lacey, when we were here at 5 a.m. in the morning, every morning we're working, we watch true crime, like body cams, like Exploring with Us. They're really good, or Dr. Insanity. And it's all about this person killed this person, or this person did this. Or we were watching the one where the mistress killed the wife because she didn't want her around anymore so they could be together. And it's like, that was real smart. You know, there's a thing called divorce. You know, it's pretty cool. Everybody stays alive. You just go your separate ways. Kind of like, hey, this didn't work out. Maybe we'll just go that way. But it's interesting. And that's why it's so important to identify that, because you can have people in your background who you think are your friends, but they are the biggest fuel to the fire that are against you. And it's hurtful. You know, there's 3 rules of success that this guy said. He's a famous actor. I don't know his name, but he said the first one is only walk into rooms where people light up when they see you.
Wow. I love that.
Number 2 is the fastest way to get to be where you want to be is slowly. And the third is every top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. So keep climbing.
Wow.
So, and it's very true. You do have to identify, because your altitude is based on those who want you to be successful. And if you're surrounded by people that are secretly snakes in the grass, and you're wondering where all this hate's coming from and how they all know all this stuff, it was this person all along.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Where do you think that plays the biggest role? You said the last couple of years being in your 30s. I agree with you. I'm 30, I think I'm 36. When were you born?
1987.
1987. I was born in
December.
1989.
Okay.
So,
okay. So you're 35.
30, I think I'm 36.
Turning 36. Well, what month?
I don't know. March. Yeah. I know when you get older, you just stop counting.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I'm turning 38 in a week. I forgot.
Okay.
I'm old.
That makes sense.
I'm
then.
getting old.
Yeah. But no, I totally agree with you. I've always kind of felt like I've been slightly delayed, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I should feel like I should have known that by now. Everybody else seems to know this.
You know, and you know what's so crazy? A woman that's so street smart raised me. And I've always been this doormat pushover, like total opposite of her. Like she's this force to be reckoned with, and like no one's messing with this lady. And I'm literally the opposite of her. And it's taken me a lot of years to try to like find some sort of shred of that strength to kind of bring it out, but like in my own way. So it took me, I was a very late bloomer with that. It took me a lot of years to like, A, stop giving a crap, and B, like start standing up for myself a little bit. That's part of the problem is I was such a doormat that I was just, it's like I was always feeling like I can't stick up for myself because something worse is going to happen to me. And so like now I advocate for myself freely because I'm like, it's happened no matter, cares. And I find that actually less happens to me because of that, because I'm putting up boundaries and I'm advocating for myself. And I'm like, no, I'm not letting anyone tear me down.
No.
I only get one life to live. I'm living it right.
They say if you treat a dog like a human, the dog will treat you like a dog. If you treat a dog like a dog, it'll treat you like a human.
Wow.
And it's the same kind of sense.
Concept, yeah.
We allow what happens to us to happen to us. We have hands, a voice.
Yes.
And with somebody in your background who's always been afraid of failure.
Yes.
All that rejection, all that trying to fit in. And I was the same way. I used to hang out with the ghetto kids. I used to hang out with the skater kids. I used to have Sean John, back in the day. Like, I hung out with the deaf kids, and I got rejected by them because they didn't like me because I could hear. And I'm like, listen, bitch, you guys are deaf. There ain't nobody here that has hearing that wants to come sit at this table. And I'm coming here to sit at this table. And I still got rejected. Yeah. I also did flick a bottle cap in the air, and it did hit one of the girls in the eye. So imagine being deaf, and now this guy's also just possibly made you blind. Probably gonna piss some people off. But no, I totally get that. And so along the way, you said a lot of it was carried through the thought of either not being enough or failure.
Yes.
And that's the majority of a lot of your depression.
Yes.
Is because I deal with the same thing.
Yeah.
Especially as somebody that was adopted. And especially with my dad, because I love my dad very much, but sometimes my dad doesn't always see my great ideas as great ideas. Yeah. And we're two different people, and I love him very much. But I share that with you is, I'm always trying to prove to him, look, I did this and I'm okay. And, I'm making it. But in the reality, when you're in business, you're getting hit. So it's like, you feel like you're lying all the time because it's all up in the air.
Yeah. Yeah. No, seriously. Yeah. I feel that a lot too on a day-to-day basis sometimes with some of our clients, the same feeling. So it's gotta be hard having you feel like that with your own family member, but we all have that kind of sometimes family dynamic where you're never going to live a life that's perfectly aligned with what another member of your family might deem as what you should be doing. I think that as a family, we have grown a lot too. In my family, we're actually better at managing that, where before we were not good at that. And we weren't very accepting of each other like we are now. And so we are doing better too, where we now have this family's everything, family's forever. And kind of taking a step back from the rest of the world and friends and some of those other friendships that were toxic, and then leaning in on the people that you truly can trust, which is like your blood. And so I hang out with my family a lot more and been trying to cultivate our family unit, with my brother and his wife. And now they have 2 kids, like finding joy in spending time with your family again. Because you're learning to trust them as like, these are the people I can trust most in the world. And so that's what I did. The closer my circle got, the happier I got, which I was finding was fueling me positively and fueling my self-esteem. I mean, obviously it comes down to your self-esteem gets hit so much that you're just in the toilet, and you have to learn how to have a self-esteem. True. Which, as a woman in your 30s in today's society, if you don't have a perfect body after 3 kids and you work and you don't have time to have like a chef make your meals for you, like I have that too, like self-bondage
people in Stafford, Virginia that live that lifestyle.
Well, but you go online and you're on Instagram and you're seeing every woman that, has had a baby and looks perfect. And you're like, well, what the hell?
Yeah, but that's the problem with perception.
Oh yeah.
Is it's a false reality, because when you look at it, the average person is average.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think
we have filters in AI, and then we as general normal women are comparing ourselves to augmentation and things that aren't real anymore. And so like, then you're thinking that you're, so I mean, we as women too deal with that every day of constantly fighting the sense that we're not enough, or we're failing because we're not looking a certain way, etc., which I used to do. I don't do that anymore because I have again, a partner that is very good about being a partner, but also in trying to be a better mom, where I don't want my daughter to grow up insecure and not believe in herself or think that she's beautiful. So my 5-year-old daughter has more self-awareness, but when I was 5, I was this shy freak. Like I was not as self-aware as my daughter. And I have this, I'm grown to be a good communicator and actually be normal. But before, my mom was like, you were actually so embarrassing because you didn't speak. People said, hi, nice to meet you. And you'd coil.
That's him.
Yeah. So I was shy to a fault, to the point offensive. And I learned how to communicate and start actually speaking words and building up. But I was so shy that it didn't allow me to express myself and have a really great self-esteem. And when those things happen to you, your self-esteem gets hit. And I've had a worse self-esteem the past few years than I ever had. But now I'm building it back up by making my daughter confident and being comfortable in my own skin, and separating toxicity with surrounding myself with positivity, because there's so many onion layers that I feel as a woman in my late 30s now, and how you're supposed to feel and look, and letting that all go, because I stopped saying in the mirror, oh, I look fat, because my daughter was seeing it, or practicing not saying things like that were making me feel actually better. I battle with it still, but I work out, I try to stay healthy and positive, where I'll be like, hey, she'll look at me and be like, why are you working out? I'm like, so that I can be healthy and strong, not so I can get skinny, or you know what I mean? So I've had to change my perspective on even how I look physically, because my daughter's watching me now, and I don't want her to grow up feeling insecure about her body, because mommy's constantly saying she's fat. And so now she walks around, she's like, yeah, I look great. I'm like, yeah, you do. You have way more confidence at age 5 than I do right now. Even in she has more strength and courage and positive body image in her pinky finger than I do. I'm like, how does she get all this confidence? But it's how we're trying to raise our kids to be confident individuals.
Yeah, but if you also look at it too, what does she have that you could learn from about that? Because one thing about children is the innocence and that they bring, because they don't know what cancer culture is. They don't know what hate is.
Yeah. And they're just living life.
Exactly. But what kind of things could you adopt from that mindset, and honestly use her mindset as a way to empower you when you do feel like that? Because at the end of the day, I mean, this idea, even if you took somebody let's say a Victoria's Secret model, right? Not that I hold any weight to them being a Victoria's Secret model, but you take somebody like that. If you take them without makeup, you may not recognize that they're actually a Victoria's Secret model, right?
Oh yeah.
Because in reality, they're human.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a part of it. You talked about, you know, the grace that we need, you know, and the
well, I'm sure if that woman
life.
were to tell you too, she would find flaws within her own self.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which is so crazy to think, you know, like we all find flaws within ourselves no matter what. So we're all our own worst enemy, really, at the end of the day, is we're finding faults in ourselves. And that's what I was battling with most too, is that not only was I still finding faults in myself, feeling like a failure or feeling like, oh, wow, like this person hates me, so I must be this terrible person, and feeling that failure and then making them validated by thinking it about yourself. And then when you take the toxicity out of your life, you're realizing, okay, no, I'm just human and I'm allowed to have feelings, and I'm not really this person that everyone's telling you are. Anything like that in your life that's negative. And so, but that innately, even in my veterinary world, is I'm my own worst enemy and harshest critic.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the part, like if I feel like it circles back to being a vet, because if I feel like I'm not getting every diagnosis perfect or I'm not saving every animal perfectly, I feel like a failure.
Yep.
And that's the other thing too, is like you can lose things and not be perfect and make human errors. Just going back to that veterinarian, that I didn't want to have that person feel like their whole life was ending because they left a sponge in an animal. You know what I mean? And so there's so many little things, and there's so much life and death and critical, that if you make even one little tiny error like that, it can have a lasting effect on your life forever. So we have so much against us, even in that respect. Like every time I open up an animal, it's so risky. Like I have to rely on my technician.
So scared.
I'm not scared anymore. I actually like thrive off of it now. It's like those Grey's Anatomy. If you watch Grey's Anatomy, they'll talk about that, where like when they are a surgeon, like that's what they want. They live to cut. Where like you live to solve the problem. So if I have a bleeding splenic mass inside of an animal, I want to get in there. I want to fix the problem and save that pet. So it's like you kind of get a high off of it. That feeling like I did this. But you also have it go the other way, where you'll lose a patient on the table and it is literally devastating to you as like your soul, because you're like, what could I have done differently that could have saved that patient? And at the end of the day, like, no, like any case that I have like that, it's like catastrophic and it was like a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
But it still hits you hard. And it hits my staff hard, but thank God I haven't had any like trauma recently like that. But
well, that's good. Yeah.
But it's hard, you know, like you pretty well are dealing with that on a daily basis. And your hands are the reason that that animal lives or dies. So that's another whole nightmare that I could get into about our mental health.
Well, no, I want you to, you know what I mean? Like I would like to dive deep with you. So like talk about that. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of emotions go through my mind now. Now I'm more confident surgeon, so I'm not thinking, oh my God, like feeling like the world is crumbling around me. Now I'm confident where I'm like determined, like this is not going a bad way. Like we're saving this pet. But taking that and having the conversations from beginning to end, having to tell an owner, I need to take your dog for surgery because it's going to die if I don't. Then explaining to them why. Explaining to them, like we'll use a splenic mass as an example because they're one of the most unstable patients on your table. So I have a dog that's collapsed with pale gums. It walks in, doesn't walk in. It's recumbent. The owner's coming in crying, my dog's collapsed. You go into the ultrasound, you find a big giant tumor on its spleen, full of hemorrhage inside of its abdomen. It's bleeding internally and dying internally from a mass that has ruptured on its spleen. It can live without a spleen, but then your task at that point is to find where else it may or may not have cancer elsewhere. So you're checking the lungs, you're checking other organs really quickly. And then I've had some where I've had to give a blood transfusion to and then take to surgery, because if they're not stable enough to go under anesthesia, they'll die on my table. So I stabilize them sometimes I don't always get the perfect stabilized patient. Sometimes you just have to take them. So I have to tell the owner, you have to do this, but it's like a 50-50 chance whether your dog makes it off this table. But you don't have a choice. This is like, you either put your pet down or I take it to surgery and try to save it. So then they throw all these arrhythmias. They don't have stable heartbeats. They can go into hypovolemic shock. So like the concept of that is the minute you sedate them, you're on a time clock. Like that pet's not going to do well under anesthesia for much longer than a half hour. You need to be in and be out. So you get the pet sedated. You've watched the owners cry and say, save my pet, and they're in the lobby and you're like, okay, like it's do or die.
Yeah.
You're relying on your technician to keep the dog alive. When you open this dog up in that moment, blood's gushing out of its abdomen because it's full.
How do you see?
Well, you don't initially at all. But here's the trick. You have to take the right amount of fluid out. If you take too much fluid, your pet crashes on the table due to hypovolemic shock. Because when your dog is reliant on all that fluid and then suddenly loses all that fluid, they go into hypovolemic shock and they start throwing VPCs and all these abnormal beats. And then if they throw enough of them, they're dead. So you have to go in, remove some of the hemorrhage, start doing your splenectomy. You're taking an organ out of the body. And then by the end of it, then you can suction some of it. You have to do it very slowly. Otherwise, they can have a catastrophic event. They can still have that even though you do everything perfectly.
Yeah.
That's what is the hardest thing for me is let's say a pet dies on the table and you're doing everything that you know how to do and you've done it a million times, but they somehow just still die on you. You're thinking, what on earth could I have possibly done differently? Well, then comes the next part. Let's say you save the pet and you're closing the pet up. Then for the next however many hours that pet is at your hospital, you have to have them hooked up to an EKG machine because they can literally crash at any point for the next 24 hours after your surgery. So you're having to literally warn the owner about this. Like, okay, well, your pet made it off the table. Now let's see if it makes it through the next 24 hours. So it's just so much that you're having to take on emotionally, physically. And then you have this fear. So I'm bad at this. Other veterinarians would probably get very mad at me because we need to respect our boundaries and go home to our family life. But oftentimes for my own mental health, I will give an owner under those kinds of circumstances, my personal phone number. And I will say, if you need me, text me. And owners love that because they often don't bug me. I'm really surprised at this now. They don't bug me unless they absolutely need advice or they're like, hey, he's not doing well. Should I take him to the ER? Or thank you for everything you've done, but he's not doing well. Can I come to you in the morning? Yeah. And I always make them recheck in the morning. But long story short with that is, although other people see what I do in that respect as I shouldn't do that, for me, it benefits me mentally because I have to know how that pet's doing. Otherwise, I won't sleep. So if I want a good night's sleep, I want to have the capability of knowing that that pet is still doing okay. Even if it means that they're not contacting me, no news is good news. And so it gives me relief that I can enjoy my life outside of work, knowing that that pet is still doing okay. So I stopped being afraid to not play by the rules. I started just doing it my way. And I got a lot of criticism because of that simple fact by colleagues, veterinarians, because I was doing too much, or they saw it as I was taking on too much. But I saw it as I was doing it my way. I was doing it the way that was going to create my own peace. And people don't see it as that, but that's just how I operate. My brain works differently than
you
most.
And me are very alike when that, especially with taking a lot of things on and then people not being satisfied that you're doing all these different things and stuff. And it's just
they're fearful of it. They're like, why are you doing all that?
Because most people are lazy.
Yeah.
And they don't. Well, think about how many people are glorified. And if you really look at them, they're this guy, like, really, this guy's not even talented. Like, why is he have a star on the side of the sidewalk? This guy has no talent, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like the way the system like rewards certain things. It's like the mundane person is the ideal candidate, the guy that wants to do extra. I even did when I was in the Masons, and I still am a Freemason over at Lodge. I started at Lodge 4, and then I'm at 350. But same thing. That's how I got into my Masonic limbo, where they almost tried to kick me out over a joint. And I had to go down to Grand Lodge and protest.
Wow.
I did do like a little court case where I pled my case to the Grand Master.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, I was given a leave of jurisdiction.
Okay.
But at the same time, it was because I was trying to do too much. And I don't understand the psychology of people when you have individuals like yourself and like me and others that are in the world. Those are the people that you want in charge. Those are the go-getters. Those are the people that they're going to show up. You know what I mean? And it's amazing how you can want to do so much, but also be criticized for wanting to do so much.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just means that, they sometimes just don't understand you. And there are plenty of times where I am very misunderstood for the way I do things, but it works for me. And then I had to stop caring about other people's opinions of me and how I was doing things.
Yep.
Because years ago, if you would have told me like I was going to somehow be at peace and not worry about, does this person like me, or does this person like how I'm running things, or does this person like how I'm doing the schedule or this or that? And I used to literally give myself anxiety over how I was going to be perceived to people. And when I let that go, it was so liberating. Like, I feel like I can be myself, and whether they like it or not, they won't care. And I kind of tune it out now, where like, if I hear someone, it doesn't even happen to me at work. It's so wonderful at my job. But like, if I ever heard someone, right now, like my job life is so amazing, which is so great. Cause like I've been in this position before at work where I'll overhear someone say something negative and it'll destroy me. Like, oh my God, like they don't like how I'm doing that. Like, should I change everything about how I'm doing it?
Like, oh my God.
No, not because one person thinks that they have a better idea than you for one little tiny thing. I had to be confident in my decision making and confident that the way I was doing it was the way I wanted to do it, because I've thought about it 10 different other ways and they weren't going to work for me. And be okay with the fact that like not everyone's going to agree with how I do things, but and just like learn from that and learn that it's okay to just be me and be like authentically me without like being apologetic about it. And before I used to always feel like I had to, or, I had to be less of a strong woman, because being a doormat and nice was getting me. I had to realize that I needed to find a little bit more strength. Being a doormat wasn't working for me anymore, and being confident in my decisions, and whether I hear someone not like it or not, being okay with that. And it's been so great, because now I get to run and live my life the way I want to live it, and not feel like I'm living for. At one point, I felt like I was literally living for every single person that had a bad opinion of me besides myself. Like, I wasn't even living for family or people that actually cared about me. I was living for the haters, like trying to mold my life and become this person that I thought that other people wanted me to be. And it wasn't making me happy. It was making me miserable. So then, well, why not just start doing things the way you feel like you need to do them for you?
Well, and I think, but again, like we were talking earlier, that's a learned behavior. That's when you start saying, I'm valuable. I deserve you respect. I deserve a change. And you stop being a doormat. And you're 100% right, because when I was younger, I spent so many times, because I got a car when I was 18 and a lot of my friends didn't have a car. Was it 18? Yeah, it was 18 when I got my license. And I used to drive people around everywhere, and just because I wanted them to be my friends, I wanted them to like me, you know what I mean? And I thought, if I do all these things and give people things, everybody will like me. And the reality is, fuck that mentality. It's you. people are like whiskey. You either do or you don't like it. You know what I mean? And there's no two ways about it.
That is true.
I consider myself like a fine whiskey where if you start to sip on it, you're like, damn, this is really good. But you know what I mean? I'm a little bit rough on the edges. But like you, I'm in your face. I'm living on my terms. I'm doing what I want. Like my dad's always like, yeah, well, you know, you're the one with the tattoos and the holes in your ears and the colored hair. And it's like, but why is that not like, okay?
Yeah.
He's like, how did you fall so far off the bandwagon compared to the rest of the family? And I'm like, because I'm choosing to be me.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and so with not caring as much what people think, it's also the other whole aspect of all of like this for me is learning to forgive the bad opinions of you and move on. Because I had an example the other day where a friend of mine like was talking about a friend of hers being super negative, and that everything that comes out of her mouth is like the world is ending, negative, or stuck on something bad that's happened, or wanting to get this person back. And so like hearing all of that, and I'm like, wow, that must be very exhausting living your life that badly. And so when you can take a step back and just go, you know what, I'm going to tune out the noise of the negative, forgive them and forget and move on and be okay in my own skin and happy in my own life. And it's so liberating because you get to live your life without hate, and you can move on from the people that have hated you and be okay with that. And you're moving forward and you've climbed this mountain and you made it through a trial in your life, and they're still stuck in the past with anything negative, and you were the victim. So like there's like tons of my friends that go through all of this, and they're talking about a friend of theirs that's super negative about life, and friend groups, like my one friend, like her friends are fighting with each other and she's stuck in the middle. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to live like that. I don't want to hear it. I'm tuning you out. I'm tuning out the negative. You can hate me. I don't care that you hate me now. And I'm okay with that. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. It's so great.
Well, but that's, like I said, that's the beauty of learning that language, but you have to understand at some point. And I think that's where, you know, being in such a dark point in your life, hitting quote unquote rock bottom is actually such a benefit in some ways, because it's the rebuild. It's the cycle forward that really defines what happens next. And a lot of times I think until we hit that point and we realize the people in our lives who we wanted to save us aren't going to save us, and the relationships we wanted to have aren't going to work out that way, you know, and we do all these things, and acceptance is just such a big thing. That's why on Death and Dying in the book, it talks about the, you know, the 5 stages of death, you know, and how we go through that. Well, it's tied to the same way about yourself. You know, first is, you know, like being angry, and then there's the sadness, then there's the, you know, wanting to like make a deal, and like, you know, I'll do anything if this were to happen. You know, there's so many stages. And I think when in life, nobody wants to be alone, and nobody wants to be not liked. But until we learn that being well liked isn't going to get you where you want in life, taking you and investing in you, putting you forward in, you know, and emotional intelligence, which is great, because in my coaching course that I'm doing, one of the biggest things is we talk about emotional boundaries. Who's taking your energy, who's giving you energy, you know, and then the self rewrites of like, well, if somebody said that, well, you're always going to fail, and you have a thought about failing, well, where was the first time you heard that? And then rewriting that in your mind and saying, well, even if I did fail, I'm doing what I love, and we're having a great day, and it's going to be awesome, and we have great clients. You know, it's that way out to recognize, oh, we're not in shitville. We actually do have value. Things are getting better, because me and Lacey, you know, will live in turmoil sometimes, depending on, you know, clients coming and going and everything. And it gets nerve wracking, but you're absolutely right. You know, when you put your family first, and that's why I think honestly, family is probably the cheat code, because one, it keeps you humble. 2, it keeps you out of trouble. And 3, well, depending on how you take care of your kids. I've seen some videos. But having those moral aptitudes and those relationships where I have a good marriage and I have a partner that supports me, you know, when you're going through that, you know, it's so nice to be able to be like, you know what? The world may be on fire, but I'm walking through it with somebody.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about the darkest moment. Like, is there ever a time, like one time I was married to my ex-wife. I got married at 18 years old, bought my first motorcycle, and moved out of my house.
Okay.
And I was 21 years old. I got an annulment. And she got the bike. And then, there.
So you want to know,
like, so what I was going to say though is one of the darkest moments of my ex-wife's depression, her name is Elise, which is still a very great person, and she actually helped me get one of my clients at way later in life, so it's actually good. I've always ended my relationships with women on always good terms, you know what I mean? You
like,
know,
really good. Wow.
Well, even if I was the person that, like, you know, fucked up, because I wasn't always a perfect person, you know. When we're young, we're promiscuous. But for most part, I've always had good relationships. But one of the times she was a manic depressant, I woke up several times like this throughout our relationship, and she would be gone, right? And I would find her downstairs and covered in blood, because she was cutting herself, usually on her wrist. So there were many times where I had to clean up the blood because it was a lot of blood. And it would be like 2 or 3 in the morning. I remember one time it was thunderstorming real bad, and that was probably the one I remember the most. But, you know, that would have been the darkest moment for me in a relationship, is going downstairs and seeing somebody that I loved, you know, harming themselves because out of agony or pain or mental anguish or, you know, at the time, whatever she was going through. Right.
So you're talking about relationships?
No, I'm just talking about just you, Brianna, as a person, not veterinarian, just like darkest moments, because, you know, I'm sure it's not just the veterinarian life that makes somebody say, I just want to take myself out. There has to be other factors, I believe.
It wasn't just one for me. Over a period of 2 years, it was 5 different events, but life-changing events, not necessarily life or death like you, but it was more like life and career. Things that were happening to me that were involving like just emotional turmoil and stress involving my career, and feeling like my career was ending over something dumb, or my license is everything and someone's trying to attack my license, or it's just different things, people going after you legally, you having to go to court, various things like that. So for me, it's not just one. That's what made me kind of feel like the darkest moment for me was a period of 2 years for me, while I was trying to carry babies and breastfeed and be a good mom. While I was going through all of these dark moments, I was still having to be so normal. So it was about 5 to 7 different things over a period of 2 years that happened to me, or kept happening to me. And every time it happened, I kept saying to my husband, we're moving to Montana.
What's in Montana?
Paradise. It's a house on a mountaintop where no one can get you. And that's really it. The reality, that was when I knew it was dark for me, when I was ready to give up everything for peace. So Fairy Farm means more to me than people can imagine. I grew up in that practice.
You grew up here in Stafford?
Yes. Too. And I had a great mentor, and I made it, that was the career choice, and like kind of like the dream job of like working there, because the building, the people, the meaning behind that place, the name, everything felt more real to me. Like that's important to me. And I think that that's why I'm the one that's in charge, because it's not a building, it's a livelihood. Fairy Farm Animal Clinic is the most important thing to me besides family. I live for that place. So when I was feeling like in order to be at peace, I had to leave, that seemed like Mount Everest to me, because that building and those people and that career, and I had started to make a little bit of a name for myself. Like people knew me, like I'd be in a grocery store and someone recognizing, you saved my dog. Leaving all of that behind and literally like cutting and running to a different state so that I could feel like I wasn't being constantly in turmoil was where I was at. But it was so hard for me to give up that every time something bad would happen, I'd be like, if another bad thing happens, we're moving. Well, I had to say that a lot. And my husband was like, how many more of those are you going to say? Because I'm getting really scared about what's coming next. Because like every little thing that happened to me next was getting worse and worse. I will give you an example. Some of the other personal stuff, like, but this is an example. Like, we are really good parents, but our little baby fell and broke her arm.
Oh, man.
When we went to the hospital, long story short, they thought we were abusing our child. And you do not understand.
Oh my
we are
God.
beautiful, perfect parents that love our kids. And they, like, it was, we were investigated. People were like, yeah, I don't know why, like, this doctor did this to you, because
That's fucked up.
your baby's fracture was not an abuse fracture. But before that, we were put through absolute hell. They were drug testing my baby, thinking I was on drugs. I've never done a drug in my life.
That's
So like,
that's hilarious.
that is
that they
one
go to
tiny
that.
piece. That is actually the easiest thing I went through, was being,
I can't believe that.
we
That
were
is-
being tortured by CPS
that's
because
messed
a
up.
medical doctor was like overzealous. And like for years, it
Oh.
mentally screwed up my husband and I.
Yeah.
And we are such good parents. And like the fact that we were going through this, like it was absolute pure hell in every way possible. And it was like you were innocent, but they didn't care and they treated you like dirt. And it was because like a medical doctor decided that they thought that you weren't crying sincerely enough. And they were drug testing your baby secretly because you breastfeed her. So they were testing her for drugs, thinking you were some drug mom. And I'm like, I'm a veterinarian. I'm an upstanding citizen. These people think I'm like, I've never even smoked a cigarette. I've not done drugs. Like, and here I was getting accused of that. Like for me, that was the end of the world for me.
No.
And meanwhile, my child was injured, but I couldn't, I mean, for days I was tortured in the hospital. Like it was absolutely horrendous in every way. They wouldn't let me breastfeed her. I had to sit there outside of her crib and just watch them like take pictures of her thinking that we abused her. Like I can't. So that is just, that's the easiest thing I went through. So if that's giving you an example of like, it was the emotional turmoil that I went through and just having to endure thing after thing after thing that kept happening to me. But I mean, I can't say I would go through it all again to be in the headspace that I'm at this very moment.
You're a warrior. I mean,
Yeah.
I know what that's like. I actually went to the nose, ear, and throat doctor,
Mhm.
and with my sleep study, I'm on Adderall and
Mhm.
I'm on something else. I think it's for
Vyvanse?
depression. No,
There's so many antidepressants out there.
I'll have to ask Lacey. She knows my meds better than I do.
And antidepressant.
Well, anyways, when I was there,
Mhm.
he's like, I want to talk to you about your results. He's like, we did a urine test, and he's like, it showed up for cannabis and amphetamines, and I was like, yeah, I'm on Adderall from the doctor, and he's like, is it prescribed? And I was like, yeah, and I was like, he's like, are you sure you're not doing anything else? And I was like, what is going on? Like, so I know exactly how you feel. Like,
yeah,
dude,
you're like, what's happening? I'm gonna go to jail.
Well, I also got diagnosed. I got diagnosed with narcolepsy because I had a sleep study,
Mhm.
and
Oh gosh.
yeah, and I was able to fall asleep within 2 minutes of them doing the
Wow.
test and
Yeah.
everything, and I
Yeah.
can access REM. So what they
Yeah.
want to do is they want to put me on more Adderall to help me stay awake, because I can be working at the computer and then next thing I wake up at the computer and I didn't even know I fell asleep.
Yeah.
Or I'll fall asleep, and like earlier I was at the computer, but I thought I was in the kitchen for some reason. You know what I
Wow,
mean?
yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's a serious thing, but yeah, no, I
Yeah,
totally understand this whole like, what are you doing?
When
Do your
has it
job.
become
Like,
you're guilty until proven innocent? Which is like crazy to me.
yes.
I never experienced that. That's when I stopped being naive and being better at recognizing and reading the room, because I was seeing the things happening but not picking up on it. And now I am. And I'm careful with my medical doctors and stuff and everything. And like, it was such a learning curve for me to like protect yourself and not watch people railroad you because you're afraid to speak up or afraid to like, ruffle some feathers, I guess I would say. So I learned so much about, I mean, and my mom says this all the time. Like, she was out of town when this all happened to us and we were railroaded. And she was like, if I was there, you guys would not have been railroaded. My mom is a pediatric trauma nurse.
Wow, it's awesome.
Like, my mom saw abuse victims.
Yeah.
Like, and so not having her there as an emotional support during that time was like hell for me, because that woman is usually how I get through life, where I'll be like, Mommy, like, I need you to speak to this doctor for me. Like, she's who I get through. And so I didn't have her. And so I had to learn a valuable lesson of like, no, you need to start standing on your own 2 feet, and you need to stop letting people take advantage of you and stop getting yourself into these positions where, I mean, like with us, like with that, like it was inevitable. Like, we, although innocent, were put through the hell and we made it through fine. But like, going through all of those things, I've learned how to solve my own problems and to do it gracefully in my own way, not like Annie Oakley, guns shooting and going crazy, but like doing it in my kind of classy flair. Also finding my own strength and voice and independence, and like becoming this new woman, this new version of myself that I never thought I was ever going to be. Like, I was strong, but like, this is like a whole new level for me.
So you went through boot camp and now you're ready to go.
2 years of boot camp, and now I'm emotionally like a fortress.
Yeah, well, no, I'm actually share the same timeline with you. We were in the accident in 2021, and me and Lacey both went through a very deep depression and a lot of stuff, turmoil, and you really have to be able to walk through the fire. I mean, it's not easy, and that's what I keep trying to tell Logan. I'm like, you think life's tough right now?
Oh yeah.
Oh, just wait.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that that's what makes you a person that's like living your life. Like, I mean, I relate stuff because my husband and I do go to church, and I love our pastors. It's a husband and wife duo. And the thing that they really, it like speaks to me is that they're like, being a Christian's hard. Being a good person's hard. You're supposed to, like, our job on earth is to be a good person, and like through your actions, like, be disciplined enough to speak out for your beliefs, and kind of through that you're saving other people's lives, through becoming someone that's just looking out for other people, or being an evangelical that's just speaking to other people about your own beliefs. And the one thing that's always this common thing that you would hear is living good is very hard. Being a good person is hard. It's not easy, And so when you think about it that way, we're living the harder road, but the more fulfilled road, I guess I would say.
Well, and yes, and I like how you put that, because it may seem like we're losing because there's challenges that we take on as individuals and independents that other people don't have to take on, right? There's things that we're gonna have to do or go through that others won't have to, like missing out on things or doing whatever. But I think the reality is, are you satisfied and are you content with how life is? Because you don't have to be a millionaire to be happy, because there's tons of millionaires who are very close to blowing their own heads off. You know what I mean? I think happiness and you kind of described it earlier, which I think is perfect, is it's a state of being. It's a state that you create. It's not a constant thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that you have to pursue, which is the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to say, I am going to treat me right, I'm going to put me for the first time before others, and I'm going to make sure that I'm good for me and then I'm good for others. I think there's a level of strength that you're exhibiting, just like, you know, I do too, which is, yeah, I'll take on the world. I don't give a fuck. Like, let's go. You know, what else can I get into? You know what I mean? And you need that because the world wants to break you, regardless of if it's the employees that are being nasty, all the other things that are going on.
Yeah.
And the value is nobody cares for you like you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or obviously your husband and your family, but
you
know what I mean? Nobody's going to make sure that your mental health is good and that you're physically, you know, mentally fit at the best capable way so you can continue to provide and be there for those who need it the most.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, because we are here at 2 hours and 35 minutes, we'll wrap this up here.
Yeah.
What I want to do, well, not just all this, like just a second, but what I usually like to do is give the last 10 to 15 minutes to you, to the ground floor. And just if there's anything that we didn't talk about or anything that you want to mention or anything that, you know, like takeaways that we could leave with other people watching, you know, kind of just open it up to you.
Okay. Well, I guess what we could touch on is how do you keep your newfound happiness and fulfillment going?
Great.
How do you move forward from that? And that's something that I've been working on still to date, which is like finding the things that are important to me and doing more of them, like getting off of my phone, talking to my children, taking them to a playground or a play date, or going outside on a walk and being out and living life differently than being stuck in my phone. Or taking impromptu trips with your mom to Tampa for her best friend's 70th birthday.
That's cool.
And really hanging out with her friends and like actually enjoying life. Like thinking, my mom called me up and was like, I think that we're going to just take the kids to Disney World. I'm like, isn't that going to spoil them? She's like, maybe, but do you want them just like to have some fun? I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Plan the trip in a few months. Let's go. You know, and stop caring about criteria that I need to follow, you know, and like start just doing things that I just want to do and start being a little bit more spontaneous, I guess. And continuing to fuel the positivity with things that are important to me. Like for me, a reset, like my hubby, like going to church regularly, being off of my phone, hanging out with my kids, asking them about their lives, finding out and making sure that things are going okay. A newfound thing for me actually recently was teaching my son the piano.
That's great.
Am kind of concert pianist. Like I lived to be a concert pianist and I was really good and it was a gift of mine. That obviously took a back seat to being a veterinarian, but I still, like for a while, due to unhappiness, it was years before I sat down and played the piano. I started playing the piano again.
Nice.
And teaching my son, who actually is 8 now. And like last night, I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and he was telling me, you know, about something difficult that he dealt with, you know, over the course of the week. And then he was like, I want to play the piano. And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, buddy, we're doing it. And teaching him and like sharing some of that. And then, you know, my husband, he coaches his soccer team and like getting to see the joy of all of that in these kids' faces and like enjoying just sports again and playing with my kids outside and sharing music with them and like just doing little things like that. You know, going to visit my best friend in Seattle, you know, last year for my birthday, one of the best ways of entering a new year and a new me, everything turned around for me literally December of last year. So it's been a year since things started going better for me. And then in the spring of this year, really I started getting it finally and becoming this new person. And how it started actually was an impromptu surprise from my best friend and my mom, where they took me for my 37th. It's not like 37 special, but it will forever go down as a major important birthday of mine, where my mom flew me out to Seattle to see my best friend, who I don't get to see often.
That's awesome.
And then she was working at the final weekend of the Taylor Swift concert in Vancouver, and going there and then bringing my other friend in. And like, we had the best girls weekend where we ate and we didn't care how fat we were getting. We impromptu, my mom and I took my friend, Christiane, I'll name drop her, to her first major great concert, where like her and I were like, it was a great weekend where we were all like talking about uncomfortable things, talking about our relationships, you know, guiding each other through the difficulties of being a mom of 3. You know, she has triplets and I have 3 kids, and like getting to talk to each other and like be each other's therapists, and then visiting my bestie, and like just this girl group that I have that is like a really cultivated group of mine, and like resetting myself with visiting them and going, okay, like you're going to change. You're going to be more positive. These are the things you're doing to fix your life. And then coming back with this new attitude and then building on that and creating this life that I've created now, that now looking back at almost a year, I don't even recognize myself. And just knowing now, looking back on that was the beginning of like this new me, this new journey. Like 37 and beyond is going to be like my favorite years.
No, I am like literally on the same timeline with you, which is like hilarious because all last year
I gotta tell you something funny.
What?
Do you mind? Mom has called me 5 times thinking that I'm dead. This is a perfect example of a helicopter mother.
I'm thinking you're like, okay, when is this gonna end?
No, that's her calling me. I should just call her up and be like, hey.
They'd be like, hey, you're on the podcast, say something.
She is on the podcast. Like, she literally, I think, thinks I'm dead on the side of the road right now, and I'm just doing a podcast.
Do you share your location? She's like, oh my God, she's trapped in this
you know
guy's
what?
basement.
You know what's sad is I don't know, but she probably does know my location.
Well, I actually have it. Me and Lacey have ours shared indefinitely.
I should, because then she at least would know, but
because especially like if you were in an accident.
Yeah.
And like, you know what I mean?
Oh, you better believe after this, I'll probably be sharing my location.
That's funny.
Yes. So every time I've looked, it's been her calling 5 times in the past 20 minutes. Like, hey, aren't you supposed to be on your way home?
So like, no, we are in the middle of a podcast, but you could turn on to YouTube. Be like, hey, just go on YouTube.
Yeah, right. No, she'll like that I ended things with, hey, my mom's calling me. I have to go.
No, this is great. But what I was going to say was, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. Tell me what you were just talking about.
Moving forward.
Oh yeah,
fixing myself.
I was just saying that. I am the same way. Last year, or especially this year, has been a very interesting year for business. Way different than most years. And I got really burned out too. And kind of like you, it's like I had to be like, no, well, you got to do this, and you got to figure out how to make it work for you. So I really like that. And then 2 is, you know, it's one of those things where you can want change, but it's truly the definition of putting the right things in place, finding the right support system, and then actually making it happen. So you can say statements like, you know, if, you know, I feel like the best, you know, I feel like, you know, if you asked me a couple years ago, I wouldn't be like this. And I feel the same way. And I think it's because, like what we were mentioning earlier, is, you know, what are you going to do? You going to just play the victim and just lay down and die and say,
my mother would never let me do that.
Exactly. You know, and I think a lot of times we want to play the victim. It's almost kind of like going to the hospital where you act like everything is a little bit more worse than it is. Or maybe I'm just the only one that does that.
No, my grandmother does that.
Oh, especially with Honey, like when we're out, like anywhere, and like when we get to the airport, sometimes I'll give like the blank stare, and then they'll like, oh, come with me. You have a service animal.
Yeah.
And then like usher me along. It actually has worked a couple of times when I missed my flight.
Oh, wow.
They're very nice. Right, honey?
Oh,
Hers wants to sit next to me. Yeah. So fun fact, Dr. Horricks did Honey's surgery. She used to have what was it on her leg?
it was a mass. It ended up being a benign mass, but she had a mass.
Yep. And
it looked like it wasn't going to be benign.
Yeah. Well, that's the good thing is, a lot of people don't take their animals to the vets.
Yeah.
And
if you didn't have that taken off and sent out for analysis, like you would have never known.
Well, my biggest fear wasn't so much what it was, because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But it was, I just see her scratching her and Finn playing and blood.
Hers was different where like she was actively making it infected and like it was irritated. It needed to come off no matter what. So it made it nice to, why we're having to cut it off, let's figure out what it is. That kind of thing.
Yeah, no, because honey, you are one of the best decisions. I always say, even though honey's cost way more than $20, I always say, because her adoption fee was $20, that she's the best funny. $20 I've ever spent.
Yeah.
They say that dogs come into your life when you need them the most.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
You know how I got honey, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's great. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I always think it's funny.
Lacey told me when she came in, like with her. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because like that day I didn't see any other dogs and they just brought honey. And that's why I just feel like
everything happens for a reason.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I truly believe that.
Yeah. And I mean, look, now you've not only done honey surgery, but you've done the podcast, you've done the panel. See what else can get you to do. Some volunteer work.
I get, Oh, and I am doing a lot of that too. I work with rescues, so I'll do a lot of things and neuters for free and stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. I went to an entrepreneurial nonprofit event that they had a blue stallion.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
I love her and that place. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was great. And they are so nice because they let me hold my panels there.
Yeah.
But Hub for Hope was there.
Okay, yeah.
And I told them because they said they needed volunteers. And I was like, I want to bring Logan. So Logan's 10 years old. He'll be 11 this year. And I want him to, be there because I do a lot of like homeless things. Like for instance, I don't really post about it, but as God's my witness, so is Logan and Lacey. If I am driving down the road and I have time, I will literally see if there's somebody on the road. I'll be like, hey, meet me over at the McDonald's and I'll buy you whatever you want. And I'll go buy people dinner.
Yeah.
And then also we've done tons of sock drives and food drives.
That's great. Especially the time of year. That's so great.
Yeah. But I think the important thing is that also adds to a lot about what we're talking about, which is the gratitude and just being thankful because you get to see how other people live. And as you, as a veterinarian, you get to see that on a daily basis, all different types of people.
Oh yeah. And their stories. And it's just amazing. Some of the people that I come across.
Yeah.
And I never had this like newfound respect for getting to know my clients and getting to know their stories and caring about them in a different way. And seeing your job as not a job and actually getting to like kind of be there for your client as a therapist in a way and their vet. I like to think of it that way.
It's like a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Therapist and a vet. You should charge double.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
okay.
Before we head out, I always ask 2 questions.
Okay.
First one is, why did you decide to come on the podcast?
Okay. So I decided that I want to do hard things.
That's awesome.
And just stop being afraid of having a voice or expressing myself. And anything in my past, the old me would have been afraid of backlash or criticism. And that's like a new step for me. And then after we did that one, it was so liberating. And I was living on that high of feeling and hearing their stories for weeks and going, wow, like I love feeling that way. And any of my friends or family, a lot of my colleagues that watched it were like, wow. And then even clients watched it and they were like, wow, you really gave us a different perspective on how we
That's
feel
cool.
about our interactions with you and what really goes on behind the scenes that we
Mhm.
never even thought of.
True.
And it really was like, wow, eye-opening that the people that you wanted to receive it received it well. The people that are going to hate it are always going to hate it. And so being willing and brave enough to start like talking about this stuff and being in the uncomfortable zone, but doing that for the betterment of just even getting the voice out there about veterinarians and what we go through in our minds, even like diving deep in how we feel on a daily basis and how owners can make us feel bad about ourselves and like how that affects us in the long run and how we're having to manage all of those different feelings and not being afraid to do it.
Yeah, and I think so too is, people on the outside should be more receptive. I think because, in my opinion, because it's looked at as a profession, I feel like they forget that you also are a person
Yeah.
and you also have emotions
Yeah.
and being empathic
Yeah.
and being, so caring
Yeah.
and loving what you do so much. To you, it's part of your identity.
Yeah.
So it affects you way differently.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when somebody criticizes you or treats you bad,
Mhm.
it's like they're almost like trying to take away from what you are, and
Yeah.
it's like you're like, oh no, I am this. Stop trying to like take this away from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think people should realize that, regardless if it's doctors or veterinarians, is like in the On Death and Dying, is there needs to be a relationship. There needs to
Yeah.
be a form of communication, because that will help in times of turmoil or sadness or hard decisions. And it can really make or break the experience, because when you're, I believe, when you're with that family in those final moments, you're also representing how veterinarians should act and represent your own standard of bedside manners almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a level of compassion that's not just offered as a service, but it's offered as a genuine affection or genuine feeling.
Yeah. And that's the goal every day. Exactly.
So that's really awesome that you do
Yeah.
that. Last one is,
Okay.
if you did or did not, did you get anything from being on the podcast today?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that I unlocked a new superpower of
That's
like
awesome.
feeling like this is something that like is really hard and I don't know how you do it every day. But it's also very liberating too. I learned so much about you, how this works. The movement, it started with our panel with the other ladies that are so wonderful and now this, and I was like, yeah, I think that this is something I would really love to continue doing because I think it's so good for me. And then like just getting to experience talking through it and realizing all of my own personal strengths, but also hearing your story and other people's stories. Like, I can't tell you about just hearing those women. I absolutely loved it. I was floored about their stories and everything that they had been through. And that panel, it made me go, wow, like, I really like doing this. This is a whole nother aspect of my life that I can add to the positivity lineup of, wow, I'd love to like do stuff like this in my community.
We're always looking for volunteers.
Well, it's like a community thing. Like I've been doing career, friends, family. The next step is community.
Yeah. Well, and that's the most important thing, because with healing, you don't have to have millions of dollars. You don't have to have expertise, because most of it's going to be based on lived experience. And we actually talked about the level of lived experience versus clinical knowledge.
Yeah.
And even my therapist talks to me all the time. He's like, I don't know how you find these people and get them to talk to you like this. Like, especially when we go through, like, I have 3 suicide survivors who are all physically disformed, who all put a shotgun underneath
their
Wow.
chins and their mouths and pull the trigger. And I've talked to them in deep detail about
Wow.
the moments leading up to it, putting the, the finger on the barrel, last thoughts, very, very graphic details. Oh yeah.
That's amazing though.
Yeah,
Like,
but
for other people and them to experience in that moment.
well, but just even with like your story and everybody else's story, it has a place. And the problem with a lot of people is they feel like they don't have one because maybe they didn't backpack across Europe and walk, across the Great Wall of China and climb Mount Everest. But the reality is, with healing, it starts with being a human, which we all are. So we're all capable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The second step is when you've decided, I want to feel and live differently. I am tired of being it. Like Jim Carrey says, depression is saying, fuck you. I don't want to be this character anymore. That's what your body is saying to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what happens is we get so detached from the day to day, how people treat us, our relationships, what's going on with our families, how our kids respond. And I'm like you. I'm like, you better tell me you love me. Like you want me more. No, but it's those things that add that we don't talk about. So even your testimonial and talking here can easily help somebody that's feeling just like you, that's a veterinarian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important in time and space that we realize the biggest thing that we do have is our voice, and everything is relevant. You don't need anything. You just need compassion, just being passionate about something. And then honestly, just having the grit, the day-to-day to show up for yourself or your community or those lovely animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's what we build and the legacy that we create while we're here. That's the ultimate determining factor. And that's why at the end of the day, if you strip all that away, it comes down to the people that you serve, the relationships that you have. And that's why in business, as you know, and I know, relationships are so important because that's the basis of it, especially when somebody feels like they can be themselves with you.
Yeah.
It unlocks things, and in your job, it makes your job, I'm sure, a lot easier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed this.
Well, I've really enjoyed it too. Thank you again. Guys, we will have more podcasts coming up. And then in January, we're going to start our live panels again. And also in January, I will be doing the mental health panel in California at the American Autoflower Cup for the third time in a row. So this is pretty cool. This is my second year as a judge there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
I'll be watching.
Yeah, no, and we actually do it live.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So, and it's actually cool because they see the value in what I'm doing. So even though it's not something that's like necessarily you think, oh, wow, this big cannabis event and a mental health panel, but a lot of people have found a lot of value in what I'm trying to create, because I'm trying to bring the true connection of cannabis and mental health as one. You know what I mean? So when they I found so much value in it, and you just hear the people and their stories. It's just like you just get inspired and you just want to help and do more things. So
well, that's great.
It's really, really cool. But that's been it. Thank you so much, Dr. Horricks, for being on. I really appreciate you and all the work that you do. Do you have Instagram or a way that if people want to get in touch with you with their animals for visits or
my Instagram's kind of confusing.
What's the Fairy Farm one?
It's Fairy Farm Animal Clinic, I think.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And then our website is fairyfarmvet.com, and I think it has a direct link to all of our social medias. We have my great receptionist and liaison. Her name's Elizabeth. Shout out to her because she does such a great job.
Shout out.
She is building us a TikTok even. I don't even know what we're going to be doing on that TikTok, but
that's great.
She's so creative. And so she's building our social media.
Perfect.
So we're rolling with it.
Nice. Well, that would be lovely. So Ferry Farm Hospital, that's where we take Honey. Right, Honey? You want to get here? You want to say goodbye?
She's tired.
She always does that. You should see her 5 o'clock in the morning. She won't get out of bed. But we will see you guys next time. Have a wonderful night, everybody.